Call Ascension Parish Council meeting on November 16, 2006 to order. Mr. Valentine, would you please lead us in prayer, and everyone follow the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow your heads, please. Father, we are so thankful for this day which you have given us to live, Lord God. We thank you for our health, Lord, our life. We ask blessings upon our families, Father. Father, we ask blessings upon our parish citizens tonight, Lord, also our parish employees. Father, give us the courage and the wisdom to operate the business of the parish in a business-like manner, Father, and to do what's right with character. We ask you, as always, to watch over our men and women in uniform, abroad and here at home. We ask these in your Son's name, we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 2, roll call. This is on everyone present. Chair's addition. I do have something that was put in front of me just now as I sat down, so I'll read it to you. Number 1 is number 8. We're going to pass on number 8. Mr. Tommy Kurtz was not able to make it tonight, so they asked him to pass on that. I also have here in front of me, this is the first time I'm seeing it, a 2/3 request to add to the agenda approval of appointment of John Monchon to the West Ascension Parish Hospital Service District Board. Mr. Valentine, do you know anything about this?
No, I do not.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Yes, that was supposed to go to personnel. This was a different situation. The hospital board recommends directly to the council on their appointments. And so, Ms. Suzanne, we didn't have a method to go about doing that, and so I suggested it come to the meeting tonight to be sent to personnel.
All right, that's where it's going.
Okay,
You got it.
that's fine.
Ms. Suzanne, you have that? Mr. Babbitt.
We requested to draft a cooperative endeavor agreement by our auditors between the Parish of Ascension and Ascension Bicentennial Corporation. This board has already approved and funded the contribution. Auditors recommend that we do it in the form of cooperative endeavor agreement. We have drawn one up before the funds to be dispersed. Auditors recommend it to be approved.
Move to amend the agenda to add this.
Second, Mr.
You got a
Chairman.
motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Where are we going to put this at?
Could we put it under finance, Mr. Chairman?
You got it, Mr. McConnell. How about number 8? All right, everybody has that one? All right. Number 4, public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. Presentations. Ms. Suzanne, do we have any presentations tonight? All right. Number 6, parish president's report. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the governing authority and our citizens. It's going to be another brief and short report. First of all, we want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, as well as the citizens in our parish. In spite of the challenging times of the world we live in, we have a lot to be grateful for in our parish, and so it's wonderful to do that. Next week we will have a Sinfield delegation in from Shanghai, China, meeting with us on that project, and so as we get more information about this, we'll share it with you. You have in front of you in your packet that you've had now for a few days a request by the consultant SJB group who is working with the levee district and the parishes along the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans to build a bicycle walking trail along the levee. So administration asks tonight that you officially adopt this resolution. It will cost us no more than $12,500.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Byring, second by Mr. Thompson. Mr. Shea Snyder. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
The last thing we're going to share with you as far as activity on building permits and things, and for the month, and it's a rolling report from October 18th through November 16th. Looks like residential permits in the neighborhood of about 150 for that 30-day period, and commercial about 6. But if we would have our impact fee in place on this, it would have generated about $414,000 to us on that for that 30-day period. So we share this with you and ask you to still think about this issue as we consider the transportation needs and how we're going to fund those needs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 7, consider agenda to adopt the October 19, 2006 minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 9, Utilities Committee. Mr. Byron.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Utilities committee met Tuesday. We don't have any items to take action on tonight. Just a little update. We are still waiting on the EID report, Environmental Information Document, from the EPA on our STAG grant monies. Supposedly, there isn't anything wrong with it. We're just waiting on them to send it back, saying everything's okay. So we're still waiting on that. Been patiently waiting for a year, but still waiting. Little update on the Heroeville project. It is ready. Plans are ready, and I believe they had a contractor meeting, pre-bid contractor meeting Wednesday, and so that's ready. We ought to be getting those bids back in about 30 or 60 days. And CDM presented their preliminary findings on the study we asked them to do, whether it be more feasible to go towards sending our jail sewer to Donsonville treatment plant or doing our own, and possibly bringing in some other folks if we do our own to our jail, like the Lemonville, Amen area. It looks like doing our own sewer right now is going to be more feasible, so we may be calling a special meeting to discuss that further, try to get some financing and move forward, because we're going to have a jail expansion in estimated a little bit over a year, and we're going to be running out of time if we don't move on that quickly. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Byron. Number 10, Personnel Committee. Mr. Valentine.
I don't have anything to report. We didn't have a meeting, but we do have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday the 29th. Is that 28th? We will interview for spots that are open on committees throughout the parish or commissions on the parish. And there's a possibility that we will also have Mr. Katz there and look at some of the salary schedules which you had recommended. It's going to be too late to do something probably within this budget this year, but certainly we could repair some of those scales dealing with different work descriptions. Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Number 11, Recreation Committee. Did we?
Mr. Chairman, we didn't have a meeting. Our first meeting going to be next week.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Number 12, Transportation Committee. Ms. Fino.
Thank you, Councilman Savoy. The Transportation did meet this past Tuesday. We had an update from URS on all the road projects. We discussed the extra revenues that we're getting and the fact that since we did not go for the half-cent sales tax this past July, we are asking that administration take the time this year to gear us toward turn lanes and other things that would improve traffic. with the extra revenue, we feel like we can do some of these things inexpensively, and we asked them to look into that. We did bring a new safety bulletin to Channel 21, and these are just the Council Transportation Committee's way of just reminding the citizens of Ascension Parish to drive with care. For further information, you can watch Channel 21 at 4 p.m. Monday through Friday and see the meetings there and be up to date completely with what's going on as far as transportation in this parish. I remind all of you that we always meet on the second Tuesday of the month at 6:30 or immediately following the Utility Committee. Everyone is welcome. Please try to attend. Thank you.
Number 13, Strategic Planning Committee, Mr. Shakespeare.
Our meeting is Monday the 27th, 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Number 14, Finance Committee, Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a very nice, productive meeting last Thursday night, and I'm going to tell you all about it. We have item number 14.1, and that was to authorize a request to advertise for qualifications from the Ascension Parish Hazard Mitigation Planning. And it was the Recreation Committee to authorize administration to go forward with that.
So moved. Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Shea Snyder. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Then we heard, Mr. Chairman, item 14.2, we heard from our insurance agent, Mr. Harry Robert, about the Ascension Parish Employee Health, Life, and Dental Insurance, and he requested authorization to include health savings accounts. Your agenda is wrong. It should be HSA instead of HAS, health savings accounts, to include those when he is seeking quotes for parish employee benefits. It was the unanimous recommendation of the committee to authorize Mr. Robert to do so.
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Is there any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
We heard a presentation from the Battered and Abused Women's Program Director and about information on their budget, and so item 14.3A was to authorize $20,000 from the general fund to be placed in the 2007 budget
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
for the Battered Women's Program.
Got a motion by Mr. Byringer, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
The agenda, Mr. Chairman, is slightly incorrect, so I may have to defer to our legal counsel about how this motion should be made. But item 14.3B should be to authorize amending the 2006 budget in the amount of $20,000 to be taken from the general fund.
Motion.
Second.
Instead of from the general, as stated in the agenda, it says the mental health fund, but that's not correct. The motion was actually just to take it from the general fund.
And that is the motion tonight on the floor. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item 14.4, after we had a discussion about energy-saving innovation sweeping the country, it was the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to authorize the parish administration to contact the Siemens Corporation to move forward with an energy savings program.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Byringer. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item number 14.5. This was to authorize the parish administration to move necessary funds from the general fund to mosquito control, and that, I think, essentially that discussion was to allow the administration to get with our mosquito control people to find out what it is they need and to move forward with coming up with proposals to present to us about enhancing mosquito control in this parish, because there's not enough money in the health department fund where we're currently funding mosquito control, and I think it's the feeling of this entire council that we take general fund money and move that into mosquito control. So if I'm muddying that water a little bit, I apologize. But we want to make sure that we know that we want to move money from the general fund and put it into mosquito control. But there's not a specific amount in here.
Motion by Mr. Thompson. Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Thompson. Is that correct, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, sir.
Is there any opposition? Questions, Mr.
I
Valentine?
move to amend that to place a figure of $75,000 for mosquito control. Specific amount.
Second.
There's a limit.
We've got a motion on the table.
Additional to what's in there right now. No, it's an additional 75 for whatever's budgeted at the present time.
All right, we got a motion to amend the budget to add $75,000
To amend the motion, I think.
to amend the motion.
Motion was to
state-
allow the administration to give what's necessary. I'm amending the motion to say that it will be 75,000.
$75,000 is included in the motion.
Now that's after discussion. That's for next year's budget. That's an additional. That's what we're talking about, right? Or we not? Is this year's budget or next year's budget? We're going to amend
It's up to
206?
us. We're amending
we
06
amended
and we're
06.
looking at
Okay,
07.
I'll make it to amend 06 then, 75,000.
All
Because
right.
we're out of money now, and that was a point of contention, but I thought we were going to discuss that later. I thought this was actually for next year, because that's what the discussion was the other night. But we're out of money now. We're talking to some of the people that work for mosquito control. And 75,000 is definitely needed at the present time to take care of some situations.
All right, you got a motion by Mr. Valentine, second by,
To the motion.
amending the motion, second by Mr. Byrigger. Question, Mr. McConnell.
And I'm in complete agreement with that. Was the $75,000 derived in a specific manner, Mr. Valentine? I mean, did we come up with that? Are we pulling that out of the air? And I ask that because is that enough? I don't want to make a motion and then have to come back.
Mr. Matassa said that would be sufficient.
You spoke with Mr. David Matassa, and you spoke to him as well, and they feel like $75,000 is an adequate amount, Mr.
Actually, Mr. Lambert spoke with him, but that was a tribute to his conversation. I just didn't want it to get past here and moving on something before we put the money in there.
Okay, good. And by the way, lady and gentlemen, if we amend what we're doing, and I think we're amending the 2006 budget, and if we don't spend it now, we'll move it into the 2007 budget, but I think there's a good use for it now. So there's no problem with amending the 2006 budget. Don't worry about that. That'll be taken care of.
Ms. Fontenot.
Well, it seems like we all had the same idea. I spent this morning talking to Miss Gwen or Amanda or somebody about, I think it was yesterday, trying to figure out how we needed to do this. We do need to put $75,000 at least into this budget for 206 to complete the year so that we can really get a handle on it, because the mosquitoes are really bad right now. They are out of funds. I would like to also see us add at least 100 to 150 to next year's budget. Now, the motion that Ms. Gwynn gave me, do y'all want that now, or do y'all want to wait for the
No,
Ms. Fontenot, I'm going to ask that you wait till we get to the budget.
to the budget? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson.
I think we need to meet with Mr. Mattelson and sit down and find out just how much we need before we just start putting money in the budget.
I did meet with him, Mr. Thompson, on the 75,000. That's what it's going to take to actually put some equipment back that's broke right now back in service and finish this year out and get ready for the spring.
Have we looked at contracting some of this out?
We're talking to several.
Mr. President.
We're talking to several parishes. For example, we got one parish close to us that only spends 58 to 60,000 and has no West Nile cases right now. So we're trying to look at best practices. We're trying to look at what's working. What they're doing, they're setting. They got 18 traps set in their parish, and whenever they test the mosquitoes at LSU, if one test is positive, well, then they do ground spraying and larvicide spraying within a 1 mile radius of that trap. And their total budget this year was $58,000. They're about 20% of our population, but they've had 0 cases of confirmed West Nile. They've been doing this for 5 years, and so Mr. Matassa is looking at this as well as other practices in the surrounding area. And along the Mississippi River, you would think that much of the problems that we're having, the same water and things, and so we got to be a little careful, make sure we do it right, not just throw money at a problem, not knowing what we really need to address it. Our budget for mosquito control has already increased from about 200,000 to 300-something thousand, and plus we did the aerial spraying about a month ago, and hopefully our first frost tonight will help us as well in this problem between now and the end of the year. But we're looking at that very judiciously and studying different communities and what they're doing. City of Gonzales told us they're spending about 50 within the city limits of Gonzales on what they're doing. So some communities aren't spending anything on it, so it's all over the place. We haven't identified trends that are contributing to that high outbreak of disease that we've had this year. LSU nor the Department of Health and Hospitals can tell us, why we having so many cases this year and haven't had this many cases in a long time. Part of the reason they think is the open sewage in the ditches, but the parish president I talked to this week has the same problem. They don't have sewage either in their parish. So we're just trying to, really get to the nitty-gritty of what will work and what doesn't work. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, like I said, some of this money for amended this year, I think we have a lot of handheld machines that's broke. And that's where we are benefiting with the mosquito control the most, is when they get out of their trucks and get around some wet areas and get out and spray it. And that's what's broke right now that can't be fixed. So, we can compare to other parishes, but, Ascension Parish is unique in itself, and if it needs it, we need to go ahead and fund it. The funding is there. And like I said, we're the worst parish in the state as far as West Nile. We need to protect it. They don't have any West Nile, so they don't have to increase their budget. But we do. I feel we do to protect our people. So thank you, Ms. Faulkner.
Any further discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Having none, motion passes.
That's the amendment you're voting on?
That's the amendment. Now we
That's
need
the
to vote.
amendment.
Now we need to vote on the original motion as amended.
And what's the pleasure? Motion by Mr. Thompson.
Well, no, the motion's there. We just need to vote on it. All opposed,
I think somebody already, first and second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Valentine's motion was to amend the original motion. The amendment just passed. Now we need to vote on the motion as amended. We know how it's going to go, but we need to do it anyway.
Correct. Ms. Suzanne, tell me who made the motion, who seconded the original.
The original motion, the motion was made by Councilman Schneider and second by Councilman Thompson.
Okay. Is there any opposition to the original motion
As amended.
as amended? Having none, motion passes. Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, sir. Item number 14.6A relates to Fire District number 3. And 14.6A1 is to authorize an agreement with the Parish of Ascension to perform certain administrative functions for
So
Fire
moved,
District
Mr.
number
Chairman.
3.
Got a motion by Mr. Byringer, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item number 14.6A2 was to authorize the to provide for payment of part-time firemen for Fire District number 3.
Motion by Ms. Fontenot, second by Mr. Hillenbeck. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Number 14.6B1, dealing with the Ascension Parish Tourist Commission. I feel like I'm calling bingo over here. Was to authorize the Parish of Ascension to assume certain administrative functions
So
for the
moved.
tourist.
Second.
And that was a renewal of a contract, by the way.
Got a motion by Mr. Byringer, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item number 14.6C was a renewal of a contract naming and appointing Whitney Bank as the fiscal agent for Ascension Parish.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
I don't even know. Item number 14.6D, 1, for Excel software was to approve a contract for preferred client support plan. And that was a renewal of a contract, by the way.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
And 14.6D2 was to approve the contract, an amendment to the 2006 contract. This is, by the way, it's Excel Software Professionals out of Baton Rouge, and they help us out with our software, our computer software. So 14.6D2 was to amend the 2006 contract. You just renewed that contract for 2007. You amend the 2006 contract in the amount of $10,450 because of additional work that we needed. It was also the recommendation of the Finance Committee to do so.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item number 14.7 was to issue a task order to the SJB Group, LLC, for the Ascension Parish Jail expansion. And we may have to get Mr. Rue to explain it. But it was after a lot of debate and discussion, and there was a little confusion that we had to clear up. It was the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee that this task order be issued to SJB.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shakespeare. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
And now this is the one that we've added, Mr. Chairman, by the 2/3 vote. So it would be 14.8, and that is a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Parish of Ascension and the Ascension Parish the Ascension Bicentennial Corporation, a nonprofit corporation. We voted to fund the bicentennial celebration up to $150,000 of legally allowable expenses, and so this just puts that into legal writing. Do we need an explanation, perhaps? If some of the council members are maybe a little bit confused or want a little more information, Mr. Babin is the one who drafted this.
Why don't we have Mr. Babin read it?
It says, whereas the Parish of Ascension is a political subdivision of the state of Louisiana and is charged with the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, the Ascension Parish Bicentennial Corporation is a Louisiana nonprofit corporation and is engaged in producing and putting on the Ascension Parish Bicentennial Celebration. The celebration is projected to bring large crowds to the parish with a festival-like atmosphere. Whereas the financial impact in the celebration is expected to be great, with tens of thousands of visitors expected to attend, generating a great economic impact to the parish and the parish government. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is concerned with the safety of those in attendance and wishes to contribute to the bicentennial celebration for economic development and impact and to provide for crowd control and safety to attendees. Therefore, the parties agree as follows. The term will extend until June 1st, 2007. Obligations of the parish will make a one-time contribution of $150,000 to be used for the celebration. The Parish of Ascension will have no further financial obligation after this amount without specifically being granted by the Parish Council under a separate motion. The obligations of the Ascension Bicentennial Corporation will be to utilize the funds only for the bicentennial celebration. The funds will be utilized for legally permissible expenses, including but not limited to safety, crowd control, infrastructure, cleanup, security. Specifically, food and entertainment expenses are excluded. The funds are to be accounted for as required by the Parish of Ascension's auditors and Louisiana law. This is the entire agreement between the parties, and there will be no oral modification of this contract. And the signatories to this contract certify that they are properly authorized to execute this agreement on behalf of their respective legal entities. The agreement is effective upon signing by all parties. It simply, as he said, puts in writing, which you made a motion to do. Our auditors, we met on this, and they suggested we do a cooperative endeavor agreement to formalize the arrangement.
All right. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. McConnell. Second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, and we may have to go back to an item, and I'm not really certain. As you recall, we voted a little bit earlier, item 14.2 for the Ascension Parish Employee Health, Life, and Dental Insurance to authorize Robert Insurance to go forth and seek quotes that included health savings accounts in it. And I just see Mr. Robert is in the audience. And there is some information that has been left. So if I'm in order, if Mr. Robert has a presentation or some information that he wants to give to us, this may be a a good time to do it. If I may, I'd like to ask Mr. Robert to come up.
We're gonna allow that, go back and revisit number 14 too.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I knew you had it, I knew you was in the audience, but I thought.
You didn't know where.
Wasn't nowhere else on the
I thought you was gonna come back later on, or let us review it anyway, but go ahead with what
Want me
you
to?
got.
Yeah. Ms. Fontenot, Councilman, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the business, and thank you for the confidence. A few weeks ago, I shared with you our meeting with the Human Resource Department and the Insurance Committee. And I expressed the feeling of a great amount of interest in a high deductible health plan along with HSA, which is a health savings account. I asked if you, if justified, would you participate in funding an HSA? And it goes, as Mr. McConnell pointed out tonight, y'all did agree with that. Subsequently, we met, and at this meeting, I had a new proposal, from Humana Insurance Company. Well, at this meeting, there wasn't only interest, but there was actually enthusiasm and excitement about the new plan. If you want to look at the proposal I have in front of you, I'll just walk you through some of the things that we're confronted with. Tab number 1 just shows you all of the companies that we requested a proposal from. We solicited from 22 different companies, and we got quotes from 4 of them. Tab number 2 shows you a little history about the rating structure of Ascension Parish, and I carry about a 10-year history on you. So if you look at any one of the classifications, employees, employee and spouse, or employee and children, you can see where the rates have escalated, considerably from year to year. Under tab 3, it shows all of the companies that we considered for quotes. To name them, they were United Health Company, Humana, and Parish Government Risk Management Association. Their proposals and pricing structure varied from 37% to 2%. On the tab 4, the companies that we considered that offered a dual option to the employees, which gave the employees the alternative of choosing just a straight $500 deductible plan or a high deductible plan with an HSA attachment, which is what we talked about previously. Okay. In comparing these dual options, Humana offered us the best plan. If you go to page 3 on tab 4, it kind of depicts the premium that's associated with the plan. On column 1, you see the 206 premium, and column 2, you see the 207 premium. Column 3 shows you the difference, premium from 206 to 207. The first set of figures under option C, which you're looking at, is the $500 deductible plan. Below that one, the second group, is the figures for the HSA $1,500 deductible plan. And likewise, under column 1, it shows the premium that we paid for 2006. Column 2 shows you the premium proposed for 2007. And column 3 shows you the difference. On to the right of those columns, it breaks out the monthly premium for the parish's portion, 75%, the monthly premium for the employee's portion, 25%. And then column 6 and 7 just shows you the monthly increase for the parish and for the employee. Tab 5 and tab 6 just explains in detail the summaries of the Humana group life and group health plans. Tab 7 is just points of interest, and it shows that $321,818 can be saved by going to a high deductible HSA concept versus a $500 straight deductible plan. The amount required to fund each employee per month in an HSA fund would be $291,000. So the difference between a $500 deductible plan and a $1,500 deductible, high deductible plan, the difference alone can fully fund the $100 HSA commitment to the employee on a monthly basis. Another point, it would be a 20% increase, 07 versus 06, with HSA funding, and to increase the life insurance of each employee from $10,000 to $25,000, total of 20%. Another point was that everybody from the Human Resource Department Insurance Committee supported the concept about the change, the company, and the increase in the benefits. Next page shows some of the recommendations that came out of the meetings that we had. They would let the employee choose which plan they would prefer, whether they thought probably the straight $500 deductible plan would suit them best, or whether they would prefer the $1,500 high deductible plan with the HSA. Continue paying 75% of either plan, which you did in the past, and continue doing that in the future. The parish should contribute $100 per month per employee to the enrollee's HSA. Now, by law, you can only contribute to the employees with the HSA plan. Increased life insurance from $10,000 to $25,000 would cost the parish about $14,000 a year. This is included in the 20% increase of 06 prices versus 07 prices. Dental coverage would be the same as 06 and the same benefits as 06, but placed with Humana. Following page kind of just gives a synopsis of why Humana. Chose Humana over the other competing companies because the insurance percentage of contribution after the deductible is met with Humana is 100%. So after the deductible is met with Humana, the employee pays nothing. The company picks up 100% of all the ensuing costs. United Healthcare only paid 90%. Out-of-pocket deductible with Humana is $1,500 for an individual, $3,000 per family, versus $3,000 for an individual with United Healthcare and $6,000 per family. The rate for a $500 deductible with Humana is 21% versus a 37% increase with United Healthcare. We felt that we needed a plan that gave better benefits to entice people to participate in the HSA consumer-driven concept. And Humana's involvement and participation in their program was exciting to the meeting members. And at tab 8, it just kind of gives you an overview of what effect it would have on the high deductible HSA plan versus a $500 deductible. How much would it save the employee or the employee and spouse, employee and children per month, and then again per year? Add that with the contribution that the parish is going to make, the total available funds that would be in the HSA, and the total obligation that you would have for the maximum out-of-pocket exposure. It would show you the most that the employee or the employee and spouse or the family or the child would have to meet, in any particular classification. There was a great amount of excitement and enthusiasm, in the whole HSA concept. And I was real happy to say that when we left the meeting, 100% of the attendees, agreed that probably because of the trend in the medical insurance business and the trend in this particular group, that there was probably no other alternative except to include an HSA in our proposal. Okay. So with your permission, I'd like to place our life, dental, and the health with Humana for 07 year.
Anybody from the council has any questions.
Just like to know if administration, Ronnie, you had a chance, past president, you had a chance to look at this yet? You in the insurance business, you ought to know.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at it as we looked at it, seen the stuff.
Attractive, I mean,
Yeah, we've been talking about the HSA now for 3 years. Been in office and looking at, and the problem in the past has been being able to offer either or. You know, because we probably have some employees that would really prefer not to get into that. You know, it's those who are really want to get into it is an opportunity to do so now. So, and overall, look like we're going to save a little bit.
Right, you save a bunch of money.
What's our total health insurance cost going to be, Roy or Harry, now with this?
If you go with the HSA concept, it's going to be right at total will be about 22 million, 2,200,000.
You scared me now. You said 22 million. I said,
whoa. Exactly. Yeah.
And how does that compare to last year, Roy?
It last year the total premium was 2 million. So you're looking at it.
So that 20%
right
increase
exactly.
about 10%.
Let me just add something, if I may. Harry and I had kind of been battling this for 3 years because I had some real concerns about the employees and what they make as far as meeting these high deductibles. But after listening to the presentation from Humana and the Insurance Commission, the committee, I think it's very exciting. One of the things they told us was 3 years ago LSU had 115, 120 people in the HSA. Now they have over 11,000. It's also the possibility that if we go with the HSA, we can get more employees into it as we go next year, and probably we won't be looking at these massive increases. What they're telling us, the increases are a lot less if you get on the HSAs. So this is it's really exciting for us that we can offer if we can offer the dual option, and then get some assistance from the parish for the employees the first year that they're in, at least the first year that they're in here, so that they can start saving for their account in the future.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McConnell.
Just a question. It was the unanimous recommendation from the committee that looked at this insurance. And I got notices the other day. I know the insurance committee met on this.
Right, and the unanimous thing was to offer the dual option. We didn't feel like we could go with just the HSA because it was something that people need to look at, and again, it's something that they have to feel comfortable with. But I got a feeling we're going to have quite a few people go into it after the meeting.
And the numbers that you quoted to us, Harry, were with the dual option?
Right, exactly.
Then I'd like to offer a motion to amend the agenda to consider adopting the plan as recommended by the insurance committee, because it's not all the finance committee did was authorize Mr. Robert to include HSAs when he went out to seek quotes. So I'd like to amend the agenda so that we can consider this.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any questions?
Just one question here.
President.
Do we have a track record, Harry, on what the amounts have varied that the parish would put up?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Shouldn't we just vote on whether to amend the agenda first, and then we can ask questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any objection? No objection. Motion passes.
All yours, Mr. President.
We're saying the parish is putting up $100 per person in this account. Now, LSU and other places with their experience, has that money grown significantly? That amount that the employer is going to put up in those accounts because of, deteriorating or improving health conditions?
That's one of the things that makes the account so attractive, is that it encourages people to save and to spend their money wisely, so the accounts can grow. And once they're needed, well, the money is there, so they can spend it like they want to. But history has proven that probably as time progresses, more and more and more people in each particular group participate in HSA concept rather than a straight deductible concept because of the money just accumulating.
So you think the probability is then that this $100 is going to remain fairly constant in that amount, that the parish is going to have to supplement this?
Well, that's
for those
something.
who choose?
That's something that the parish can determine on an annual basis. It depends on your budget condition and whatever you choose to do. It's It's just like changing the benefits of a plan. It's part of the benefit. You contribute whatever you want to up to the maximum amount of the deductible. Okay. But
So that $2.2 million would be the maximum amount that we would be paying for this plan next year, regardless of the health history of our employees next year.
Yeah, in 2007, yeah, then you have, right.
So even if they run out of money within that health savings account, we're not going to have to come back in and supplement.
No, it's a,
The thing about the $100 that makes it so attractive to a lot of people is if we went in this straight January 1st, nobody would have any money in their savings account, and if they go to the doctor right off the bat, they might have a bill because if you're paying the full bill when you go in up until you get to $1,500, and then it's 100% paid for. So the supplement that the parish gives is we're going to also have to save money if we want to cover our families or whatever, or it's just like you're going to have to pay the full price. And so this just makes it a little bit easier on the employee going into it the first year.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do have a question. This is voluntary. An employee will be able to use the
Right.
conventional or the
or not
HS.
participate at all, whatever
Okay.
they want to do.
Does it, as far as getting the benefits of the health savings account,
Okay.
number-wise, does it help? I mean, what if we only get a quarter of the workforce to participate? How does that work out?
Doesn't really matter, but the more people that participated, the better it is for for the parish because of future loss experiences, and because it's going to cost you less to fund the HSA than it is to pay for the straight $500 deductible.
So it doesn't matter if 10% of the workforce or 50% of the workforce?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Now, the numbers are going to change a little bit, but I mean,
Numbers
as far
as what, Harry?
Well, the numbers as far as probably what the ultimate premium will cost, is going to change a little bit. It's not the exact amount if you transfer from an employee from a $500 deductible to a $1,500 deductible. So, and you don't know until the plan actually, is finalized as to how many people are going to participate in a $500 deductible, how many people are going to participate in a $1,500 deductible. You see?
All right, let me ask you this. What if, because the workforce is probably going to be a little skeptical at first.
Right.
What if a couple months down the road, first quarter of the year, they realize that they're locked in for the year? They have to wait till
once you get to next year, exactly.
Mr. McConnell, you had anything?
I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Insurance Committee and adopt Humana's dual option plan as presented by Mr. Robert.
Got a motion by Mr. McConnell. Second. Second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Is there any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that's our report.
All right. Number 15, building condemnation proceedings for structure located at 3291 Highway 18, Ascension Parish. Mr. Laverne Bourgeois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Tonight I have before you building condemnation, which is a part of the proceeding for you to give me guidance on whether the next measure will be to proceed with condemnation of the structure located at 3291 Highway 18. And you have in your packet a sequence of events that led up to this event coming here tonight. Since May till today, we have did these measures, and we're here tonight to ask for your guidance on what's the pleasure of the council towards the next proceedings of the condemnation of
Chairman, I make that motion to condemn the recommendation from the building department.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Alden Joseph. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition?
Mr. Chairman.
Having none, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure. I'd like to, for fairness, make sure there's anyone in the audience that would like to have had their say on this matter. I don't know if anyone's here or not.
They did have the opportunity to sign a speaker card.
Okay.
Thank you.
This, Mr. Chairman, this is one that we've been working with the church. It's right next to the church there, and they've been requesting as quickly as possible to get this done. So this is a good thing.
They got it.
Thank you.
Number 16, public hearing to receive comments from the public regarding the parish's Section 8 Rental Assistance Program Annual Agency Plan. Mr. Roberto.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, members of the council. As you know, the Parish of Ascension administers a Section 8 program which provides rental assistance to low and moderate income families in the parish. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that provides the funds for this program requires that on an annual basis you hold a public hearing to obtain views from the citizens of Ascension on the administration of the program. The agency plan basically outlines the procedures on this program, sets the rules by the federal government, and how it has to be implemented by the parish. So the public hearing was properly advertised in your official journal on November the 10th, and the floor now is open for any comments on the
Motion
program.
open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
You got a motion by Mr. Bowering, second by Mr. Todd Lambert, open public hearing. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak?
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Oliver Joseph. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Roberto, do we need, is that all you need from us on this particular one?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Number 17, authorization of the intake of Section 8 rental assistance applications for the elderly and disabled. Mr. Roberto.
Yes, sir. On the same program, I would like for you to authorize me to advertise the intake of applications to establish a waiting list for those families that qualify as elderly and disabled.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Roberto. Number 18, update on Muddy Creek Bridge. Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not much of an update because it's only 2 weeks ago when we received this. But what we have done in that period of time is that we've been able to collect all the files from the two engineering firms that were originally on this project, the Shaw Group and GSA. And we do have that. Our plans at the present time is in December, we're going to be asking the Public Works Department to go through with us and see what can still hold in the project and what has to be changed. And then in January, we'll start putting the application together because none of this can be submitted till mid-February. And that's where we're at right now. But we do have all the files, the pictures, the engineering data and all, but we don't know whether some of it, I guess someone, as someone says, is that they really have to look at the hydrology to see if it's changed any in the area.
Exactly, Mr. Keller. Who are you going to be submitting, requesting grant money from? What agencies?
We're going to be going to two different agencies. One agency, of course, will be FEMA.
Okay, and the other would be?
The rural development.
Rural development of the state, okay. That's all I need. Thank you.
Number 19, Lamar Dixon update. Mr. Eddie Crawford.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us. Along with our financial report that we typically present the second Tuesday of each month, I'd like to add some of the following
Mr.
information.
Eddie, excuse me, can you move your mic to the
Sure.
middle? There you go.
How's
Let's
that?
try that.
Better? Well, we'd like to start off by saying we're looking towards the end of 2006. We're happy to report that we'll end up having about 356 event days out there. We were budgeted to do 300, but we're gonna pass that number. And along with those numbers, we'll have 133,000 folks have visited Lamar Dixon with these events. We're happy to say that we booked 42 weekends this last year. 25 of those weekends were multiple event days. That means we had separate events going on around the property. Looking forward to 2007 right now, we can tell you we have 209 events on the books already. So we're making significant progress on meeting the numbers. We have some great prospective events out there right now. We're in the process right now, actually it'll be this week, we'll sign a 3-year deal with a bull riding event that'll take place in February, along with the South Central Livestock Show. We have an extreme car audio show that has come back to us. They canceled their events last year due to the storm, but they have weathered that storm and is coming back. That'll be a 3-day event out there for us. As you know, with the bicentennial celebration, will join us on our calendar this year. We won the bid for the National BMX competition. They're going to call that the Cajun Nationals. This will bring riders and families from all over North America out to Lamar-Dixon. Louisiana High School Rodeo Finals, we'll have that event out there as well this year. 2007, we've got the bid package to go after that again for 2008 and 2009. It should be a competitive bidding process. Monroe really wants to get that event back to. Those are some of the many events that we're looking at right now. Those will go along with our major events, like the Louisiana Livestock Show, the Louisiana Sportsman Show. Had a very successful year. They are hoping to draw 50,000 people out there to this year. They've really had a good, have high expectations for us this year. Along with those, coming back to us is the Oktoberfest, Tri-State Rodeo Finals, Classic Gun and Knife Show is adding 4 events, 4 weekends with us this year as well. Just those events that I've mentioned right there, the ones that are prospective events and the major events that we have on the calendar now, we're looking at about $480,000 worth of business just from those, looks like 40 events right there. So we're really excited about 2007. I'll go through just a quick list of events that were new to Lamar-Dixon this year. The Horror Flight, the Haunted House, that was out there this year, drew 6,000 people to the parish. We had an event out there from Our Lady of the Lake. It was Up With Kids in the Trademark Show. Very good event for us. They're anxious to come back. As I mentioned, the Louisiana Sportsman Show. Earlier this year, we had the Youth Legislature, which typically happens in Baton Rouge at the old state capitol. They came out to host their event with us at Lamar-Dixon. All in all, there's about 15 new events that we had out here this year, and most of those will be annual events with us. Some of the things that we've been working on right now is allowing more public access to the property as far as trying to make some kind of use of the back pastures. One of those things that we've accomplished, I believe, real quick here is the Model Airplane Radio-Controlled Airplane Club. I believe they're going to call themselves PAC. Some of the members are here with us tonight. They should be flying in the next week or two. They have come out and prepared their field, their landing field, so that's a whole new activity that'll be going on out there. We're excited about that. Just 2 weeks ago, we had the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts of America had I think it was a multi-parish rally, about 600 troopers out there and their sponsors, so that was exciting. Continue to work with the YMCA to make use of their space out there with their softball camps and soccer camps. So we're trying to get that back pasture program to do something. We also are happy now. We're working with the Ascension Parish 4-H. They're going to start a shooting club program. So we're interested to see how that's going to work out. Let's see. As I said, we typically do our financials, but I'll do just a quick highlight here. Let's see, where was I? We're looking at approximately $280,000. Will be above our budget by $280,000 this year. That's what we presented in our September numbers. Per our contract, if SMG doesn't reach that number, our budget, what we presented in 06, that our fee is returned. So that number will actually be, instead of $298,000, it will be $198,000. So that is a good thing for the parish. Some of the things when we were talking about our financials, we went back and we're totally trying to evaluate our progress this past year, as well as look towards 2007. One of the things that we ran into out here for 2006 was repairs and maintenance at the facility. We budgeted $74,000 for that. We ended up at about $167,000. We're replacing a lot of equipment. We're replacing them the right ways. We're not putting Band-Aids on any of this equipment out there. So that was a big, that was about $93,000 over budget, what we had budgeted. Let's see, we covered that. Utilities was another one. Utilities were up out there about 11%. We had budgeted $431,000. We were at $477,000. So as you can see, these expenses started to snowball on us. And then when we were hit with, as we talked about this 2006 year, we're still kind of in the shadow of the storm. We had $138,000 in canceled business. So with just those three items alone, we were looking at a $280,000 combined expenses and lost revenue. That gets us very close to that budgeted number. So as we go back and we look at our operation, do a self-evaluation, we're finding out all this information. As I said, some of the things that we're excited about next year, the Sportsman Show signed a 3-year deal with us. The rodeo that I spoke about in February is signing a 3-year deal with us. High school rodeo finals, we'll bid on that process again for 2008-2009. The additional activities out in the back pasture that allow more public access to the property, I think, is a plus for us. And that concludes my report at this point. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Mr. McConnell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Crawford, I remember when we were interviewing SMG for the management position, one of the things that was brought to our attention was that SMG would be working on some real signature events for Lamar-Dixon Expo Center that could really be identified with that expo and with Ascension Parish, and these were things that could be done annually. Here after 2 or 3 events, something like that we could spread out during the year. And I know you're going out there and you're trying to attract events that are out there, and you're trying to bring them to the parish. But I guess I just want to know how are we doing on these big signature events that we had discussed earlier.
We're still working on those. As we said, we talked with some of the promoters out of New Orleans. FMI is a big promoter, the ones we were talking about creating this Cajun Country Jamboree with. Still very interested. They were greatly impacted by the storms, so I think that is not out of the question. We'll continue to talk with them and entice them here. One of the other big events that we were talking with was a major motorcycle rally. That promoter went bankrupt, so that's something that we have to go back out now and try to find a new contact, make that relationship, and entice them to come to Lamar-Dixon. So I think those events are still out there. The bicentennial, we're hoping will be a nice eye-opener for some other folks that are looking at fairs like that could come in, and if this is a one-time event, then they possibly could fill that weekend with what could become an annual event. So we're excited about this. This will show another aspect of what the facility can do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's what I was saying. The PARC members, part of the park with the recreation department. Would you like to stand up real quick? These guys have come out and done a tremendous job on getting the fields prepared at their own expense, I may add. Thank you very much, guys.
Mr. Eddie, how many
Yes.
how many equestrian events did you have in 06?
In 06, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I can find that out for you. Most of those that we had on the books canceled due to they could not find hotel rooms earlier in the year. Well, I would say last spring, but I'll get you that exact number. 2, 3. We probably had another 3 other bull sales, livestock sales, things like that. But I'll get you a solid number on that.
Okay. Mr. Shakespeare.
I was just curious, Eddie, how are we standing in improvement on hotels availability and everything for the future in the next year or so? It just seems like with Cabela's coming in, I think there's a number of hotels or we're going to be reaching a point that we're going to be able to hold some of these events? Right now, it seems like the hotels are holding us back.
We've actually started building our relationship with the Baton Rouge area, CVB. A lot of the hotels there are offering us packages. The hotels on Seagan, Bluebonnet, those areas are 15 minutes away. We're hoping that's going to help with the high school rodeo finals, for instance. One of the pluses for us is that we have those 300 RV sites out there. So as Cabela comes in and the new hotels come online, it will certainly help us. Right now, for this year, though, it has been an issue for us.
Do you have what is the number of the local rooms available now?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. It varies, actually. I think some of these hotels in our area, our Ascension, are running at like 80%, 85% occupancy.
Okay.
So and on the other side of that, though, excuse me, we continue to have a tremendous business in our non-event related RV park. We have 50 RVs out there right now that are paying the monthly rental rate of $450 a month. So it's a catch-22 situation. We're actually using space that we would use for our 4-H livestock show. That park will fill up, and now we have 50 less spaces to offer them. So we're in quite a spot.
Now, before I go any further, I do have a few people in the audience who'd like to speak. Let me go ahead and address them first, okay? I got Mr. Merv Howell with Ascension Parish Radio Control Club. Let me remind everyone in the audience you have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, council members. As Eddie mentioned, we're a newly formed radio control flying club known as the Ascension Parish Radio Control Club. And our members are here tonight to express our thanks to Mr. Crawford and to Ms. Kitchen for working with us to explore the possibility of using a site at the Lamar Dixon Center. We have a shared interest in model aviation, and we look forward to bringing that to the parish. One of the main activities we have is introducing new junior and senior flyers. We notice that there's a fledgling hobby shop in the parish. This kind of activity will support that sort of activity. We bring with us a national organization which provides a multi-million-dollar liability insurance to cover any possible issues that might arise. We operate in these ways in fields that are leased in Baton Rouge now and across the river. So we look forward to bringing this activity into the parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Ms. Diana Bivin.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman, and all the other council people that are here. 2 weeks ago, November the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, there were 650 people out of Lamar Dixon, parents, Cub Scouts from Ascension Parish and the Iberville Parish. We wanted to say thank you to the Parish of Ascension for buying Lamar Dixon, or the leasing that we're doing, because that really gave us an opportunity to show Scouts what scouting is about. A lot of our kids in Ascension Parish, granted we have baseball and we have football, but we also have scouting. And Lamar Dixon provides us the space and the opportunity to show our kids what scouting's all about. And I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of PAC 399, which actually hosted family camp 2 weekends ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have Ms. Catherine Goff.
Good evening, Chairman Savoy, council members, President Hughes. This year, expenditures in Lamar Dixon in the 06 budget could have built 21 turn lanes to relieve traffic congestion throughout our parish. This is a map that came from the CSRS study that was done about a year and a half ago. We paid taxpayers paid $9,900 for this study. The relocation of parish offices, you'll notice here there's, let's see here, zoom in a little bit here. We've got DPW here, recreational areas, and also Ascension Parish government being relocated at Lamar. This is just a conceptual plan. We haven't passed this yet. These are some quotes from that study. The purchase should not be based on the premise and expectation that parish government will construct and relocate at Lamar. If a third party purchased the facility, potential revenues generated could be more valuable to the parish than owning and operating it. This is CSRS's opinion, not mine. It is also the stated opinion of Bert Falk, your independent auditor, and I quote, "The facility is never going to pay for itself." $50,000 is allocated in the 07 budget to develop a master plan for property that we do not own. We do not have the money to purchase or to make capital improvements that are necessary, including building parish government. Is this fiscal responsibility? If the proposed budget passes, lights for Lamar Dixon will be paid with property taxes of residents. Not all residents, just some residents. Sorry. Get this map back up. This is a lighting district map of our parish. If you'll notice in the pink area, this is Lighting District 6. Mr. Thompson is the one who watches over this area in the parish. People in the area of Darrow, Geismar, Pelican Point, Sorrento, Gonzales, west of 44 and south of Cornerview will be paying the lights for Lamar Dixon in the budget if it is passed as it's proposed. I've spoken about lighting districts before. This is a graph that shows us the fund balances in these 7 different accounts that we have now. The revenues have far surpassed the expenditures, and you can see that the cumulative fund, which is yellow, for the 7 lighting districts will be close to $1.5 million at the end of 07. With $33,000 of this dedicated money placed in the general, $33,000 of this money will be put in the general fund, and it's time to roll back these taxes and not make people pay more.
Mr. Doppler, your time's up now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Salborn. Parish President had mentioned about impact fees. And, of course, I was one of them who voted against impact fees. But he likes to keep bringing up the fact that, you know, we would have collected X number of dollars. Well, Scalpel had a poignant statement about those turn lanes. And so far, each time the parish president's going to mention impact fees, I'm going to mention the loss at Lamar Dixon. So the loss total as of September the 30th is $761,000 on pace for $1 million. I appreciate everything that goes on at Lamar Dixon. I really do. Although people think I'm against the facility, I am not against the facility. I'm against the fact that this parish and this council has agreed to pay for the loss of this facility. Before I go any further, I meant to do this. Mr. Doug Thornton's in the audience. I want to recognize him. I know he is really glad that he's got the Superdome open and running. And in fact, I was down there for one of the games. Y'all did a fine job, Doug. Congratulations. And I know y'all doing everything y'all can to keep Lamar Dixon afloat, and I appreciate that. But being that, as I said that, you saw a map that Ms. Goppel even placed down. I didn't know she was going to do that, but in the latest memo of understanding, and the parish president mentioned this in his speech earlier this year, about we had some things we had to work out. And it says, no part of the property shall be used for commercial establishment of any kind or for other than those use provided herein and other uses reasonable incident thereto. No part of the property shall be used for housing of parish government offices or activities other than those directly related to the operation and maintenance of Lamar Dixon in accordance with the mission statement. Now, you might get broad on that, but that tells me we can't move DPW there. We can't move government offices there. So until that changes, I don't think we could do that. And that, to me, that is a problem. But when we was presented this a couple of years ago, naturally there was a lot of emotion, and we wanted to save Lamar Dixon. In Lamar Dixon, it was kind of stated to us that if we didn't take it up, it would close. And those threats were made to us. But let me remind everybody, it's always been on the table for somebody to buy it. I got a letter in my hand right here I'm fixing to read. It's dated November the 10th, 2006. Dear Jackie Rome, who is the chairman of the Lamar Dixon Foundation, I understand you speaking with Larry Hinchcliffe. This is the same gentleman that's been on TV trying to buy this piece of property and utilize it for equestrian events. I understand that you spoke with Larry Hinchcliffe and that you requested information regarding the ability to close this transaction. As you are aware, I had provided a loan commitment for $11.5 million for more than a year ago when we first began this journey. In anticipation of the new agreement, I again spoke with the lender, who assured me that he would still consummate this transaction. However, redoing the formal commitment would require another commitment of $25,000. This gentleman already spent $25,000 to secure an $11.5 million loan, and he's willing to do that again. Once we have the signed agreement, I will formally update the loan commitment. Additionally, Larry has informed me that you're willing to consider serving on the board or an advisory committee charging with assisting us in developing the Expo Center and adjacent acreage. I can say without reservation that you would be willing, that you should be willing to serve in such a capacity, thanking him for that, and your advice and insight would be invaluable. I appreciate your willingness to consider such a position. And this is dated November the 10th, people. These people are still interested in buying Lamar Dixon, keeping the mission statement, and has so stated that, and have $11.5 million. I'll say it again. I don't know any government in the world that makes money except those that pump oil. That's the only ones. And we're not pumping oil at Lamar Dixon. Beautiful facility. I'm glad everybody can use it. But you know, they can still use it even if somebody else owns it. It's still going to be here. The statement of CSRS stated it would be a better economic situation because it would employ some people that wouldn't be parish bound, or we paying the bill for that. I appreciate the report, but let's be honest. We still don't have a mechanism to fund it, and there's not one forthcoming. And I just got great heartache of it, and I want the people of this parish to understand that money is coming out of the general fund to do that. Very little money is coming from the state, and there's very little money coming from the federal government for this facility. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, I want to go on record to say that the funds that are collected in Lighting District number 3 will not be used to fund the energy costs at Lamar Dixon. I don't know where these people get their information from, but it was voted that the council in that district has the say on how to spend that lighting district revenues. There are some projects that we're looking at, and we're going to upgrade some lights in the area, and it does not include lighting Lamar Dixon. So wherever some of these people getting their information from, they're misleading the media. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Thompson, we didn't get that. We didn't pull that out the sky. I kind of spoke with you on the side. I didn't want to bring this up, but since you brought it, what you did. Ms. Gwynn. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Parish President, could I ask Ms. Gwynn a question?
Ms. Gwynn, would you like to talk to Mr. Valentine?
That would be okay.
All right, let's do that. I'm fixing to talk to him, too. Thank you.
Ms. Gwynn, did you not say that we increased the budget in Lighting District 6 with anticipation of the purchase of Lamar Dixon, and that's why that fund was put in there for lights for Lamar Dixon?
Right. Previously, we discussed this, in finance meetings a couple of times, that if the parish ever had the opportunity and exercised the option to purchase Lamar Dixon, that one of the expenses that could be paid for out of a public lighting district, which is legally appropriate is any lights on public roads or public places would,
That's correct.
Lamar Dixon would qualify for.
Okay, and that's where we got that information, Ms. Thompson. There's no knock on you, anything. The information, she just plainly spoke that. And those funds comes directly from people only in District 6, industry that pays from District 6, and those are the people that's paying for that lighting district, and those will be the only people that will pay for the lights of Lamar Dixon. That's in that fund. That's where that came from.
But I understand that.
Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson.
I understand that. But until the administration sit down and meet with Councilman Shake Snyder and myself, they can't just take the money and go pay for lights in Lamar Dixon. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this has been an interesting debate for quite a while. I enjoyed debating this issue with Mr. Valentine. I look forward to it, and I'll look forward to it all my life, because there's no doubt in my mind Lamar Dixon is the right thing for this parish. Reminds me of the leadership in the past that made the decision not to take 75–80% of the cost of parish-wide wastewater. Didn't do it. Now we're still trying to deal with that issue. Parishes, St. Charles, St. John, St. Bernard, did that back then when the federal government was going to send our own tax dollars back to us to help us in this regard. Mr. Thornton, do you mind talking to the parish president a minute? Has the Superdome ever paid for itself?
Mr. President, as you know, the Superdome operates at a deficit each year.
What is that deficit, Mr. Dove?
Depending on the tax collections of the hotel motel taxes, it could run anywhere from $3 million to $7 million a year.
Now, and that's a sizable amount of money. And we're talking about much less here. But is the economic impact within that New Orleans area, you think, beneficial to the area as well as the state?
Well, there's no question about it. The economic impact annually for the Superdome is probably well over $250 million.
What about the River Center in Baton Rouge? You manage that facility. I understand it also operates in a deficit as far as purely operational costs, revenues, expenses.
We'll probably operate at a deficit of about $750,000 this year.
Do you think that that benefits the community economically?
It certainly does.
Okay. Now, let's be honest. I agree with Mr. Valentine. People be shocked that I agree with George on this. Let's be honest. Most of these type of facilities around the country are owned by government because they are not free enterprise, capitalistic type of programs. Just like the softball field at San Elmo and East Ascension in Dutchtown. That softball field will never pay for itself. That basketball gym, the boys and girls play basketball, even though they charge tickets to get into the events, will never pay for itself purely economically. Football field may over many decades, depending on how much maintenance. The electrical bill of a Friday night football game in this parish is significant. And Mr. Valentine knows that. He came from the school board, him and Mr. Hillsbeck both. So if we strictly look at the purpose of government as paying for itself, our roads don't pay for themselves. Our hospitals don't pay for themselves. Mental health doesn't pay for itself. Mosquito control doesn't pay for itself. And so I look at this as a quality of life issue. It's not about saving Lamar Dixon, because we have no responsibility, as I said 2 years ago, to save Lamar Dixon. We do have a responsibility to do what's right for Ascension Parish. And I take that responsibility very seriously. And I absolutely believe with all my heart and soul this is the right thing to do. And no doubt the hurricane hurt us. We thought maybe it may help us because some events would come here that. But what really happened is we met with the people in the state tourism and travel industry. Tourism to the state as a whole has been cut significantly, and tourism was one of the biggest generators of revenue in Louisiana. That's still significantly down, specifically because New Orleans was a big part of that tourism industry, and obviously that area of the state is still not back up and going. So this is not about saving Lamar Dixon, my fellow citizens and my fellow council members. It's not about that at all. You know, I look at Lake Martin, Flat Lake, where I grew up. when that property became available many years ago. You know, should the parish or the state maybe have bought that where you have a wildlife and park area out there now? We have citizens sometimes contending with each other over development of that area. And that's been a beautiful wilderness area where I kind of grew up in. Spent a lot of boyhood days. And regardless of what we think government should or shouldn't do, we know that quality of life is something government is going to be involved in. And I submit to you that Lamar Dixon is about quality of life. Just like I support those young women playing softball, knowing that that softball field, and Mr. Valentine, Mr. Hillsbeck voted to spend my public money to build those softball fields, and I support that because it's going to benefit those young people. I was a high school baseball coach. I helped build East Ascension's baseball field. We closed it in 1978 and 79 on Burnside. We started building it from scratch on Irma Boulevard. That baseball field will never pay for itself if you strictly look at what we charge a person to come to the baseball game. But does it have a significant impact on the lives of our young people? And does that impact make them better citizens? Those young people that show animals, or these older citizens that aren't quite so young but still look young, with what they do out there, is that beneficial to our parish? Does that have an economic impact? Does all these young people and families, grandparents coming to race bicycles next year, does that have a quality of life issue? Does it bring an economic development in the area? You bet it does. The state, and I'm excited to see now, and I think another thing that hurt us is the length of time it took Cabela's to get approved through the Supreme Court system. If that building would be open now, I submit to you that Lamar Dixon would not have had as many losses. If it had, well, then we need to fire SMG. I'll state it real plainly. What will come in with that, there's 2 or 3 hotels, not just one hotel being discussed now in that whole general area. Hotels has been a problem. There's other retail businesses that are also being discussed in that entire area. Part of that development. As we know, we have 2 or 3 large industrial plants getting very close to coming to our area. None of those revenues have been put in the budget for next year because we're not going to count any chickens before those HVACs. But it's getting very close. So I wouldn't be spending Thanksgiving morning with a delegation from China if it didn't look very positive for this parish. And so I believe before I die, we will see and all be grateful that this parish made Lamar Dixon part of parish government for all segments of our society, for all age groups. And I don't think it ever will pay for itself, Mr. Valentine. Just like that softball field is not going to pay for itself. Just like that public library sitting over here just north of us is not going to pay for itself. Just like that road is not going to pay for itself. But we improve a road to save a life. We build recreational facilities to improve the quality of life for our young people and all of our citizens. And so I plead with this council to do the right thing. You know, you're talking about spending more money for mosquito control. That's important, no doubt about it. Health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. Proper use of leisure time is also a health and safety issue. We live in a challenging time in our society. And I know it's not easy to make these kind of decisions, but it's, you know, let's be honest. If we're going to eliminate from government everything that doesn't pay for itself, very few of us be sitting around this table. And our budget would be significantly smaller. Now, we could debate the issue of should government be involved in this? Should the school system be involved in extracurricular activities? You know, should the city and parish government provide recreation for its citizens? Is that an individual and family responsibility? That's a debatable topic in a republic. But I think we made the decision many years ago as a society, like it or not, that we would provide these kind of opportunities for our citizens. And so, and they say one thing, when you know you're doing the right thing, it's always controversial. That's one of the things you judge doing the right thing by. If it's not controversial, it's probably not the right thing. And so I appreciate the opportunity to debate Mr. Valentine on this issue. I'll do it on national television in a heartbeat because I deeply believe it's the right thing for Ascension Parish. And I deeply believe and challenge Doug and Eddie and them, and they best do this, the losses need to be significantly less than next year. But with our bicentennial and other things happening, with Cabela's trying to open before next fall, and the other activities in this general area, I think they will be very complementary and very beneficial to each other. And they will create a synergy there that will benefit our parish. And if nothing else, I remind you, if you go back to this argument a year and a half ago when we sent people to Arizona to look at Westworld, that facility's been there for years. It still does not make money purely looking at profit and loss statement. But when they looked at the economic impact within that community, it was millions of dollars, just as Mr. Thornton just pointed out, with the Superdome. Now, I had reservations about building the Superdome. We were told it was going to cost $35 million back in the 60s and 70s. Doug told me the other day we spent $180-something million fixing it after the storm. Is it worth it? Probably is. Do we kind of like spending public money like that? I have some concerns with that. But when you look at the whole picture, and you look at the big picture, and what's best for this parish, as we go from 100,000 to 200,000, the people will be excited that Lamar Dixon is there. And if it's parish recreation, if it's softball fields or baseball fields in the back, if it's families camping around that lake and fishing on the weekend, or if it's Cub Scouts going there and having a great family activity on family weekend. To me, that's positive things for this parish. And so just as I support our school system with their extracurricular activities, I support this parish government in providing these kind of activities that are not provided by the school system. And to my knowledge, they're not included elsewhere in our parish. So I wanted to be real brief tonight, but we're going to debate this issue. I'll stay here all night with you if you want to get into that. I have no problem. And I'll pay for the pizza. Okay? And I guess I can in a public facility. I'm not sure. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Fondo.
President Hughes, we hear often about the fact that we did not support the impact fee. That's because we didn't believe it. That's because in our heart we didn't believe that was the right thing. But it was brought up here tonight. I am 100% for Lamar Dixon. Always have been. I have animals, and I appreciate my animals, and I love to go watch animals. But I swore by oath for the safety, health, and well-being of the parish. And there's a lot of things that I know that our money needs to go on, and we don't have the money maybe the state and other places have that they can afford the loss. I agree that the facility is worth it even if it does have a loss. I agree with that. It is not an economic development tool for us in that the city of Gonzales reaps most of the taxes. So we're not getting the economics from it. But more important than anything, we did a study. We had CSRS. We paid to do that study. We had our own accountants look into it. Both of them came back and recommended to this council that we had to have, in order for this to be a viable place, facility, that we had to have a funding mechanism. And so we set about to do that. We didn't set about to close Lamar Dixon down. We set about, this council set about to get out there and get the funds. The people in our parish came out in droves. They were for Lamar Dixon. I talked to many as I went around this parish. They were for Lamar Dixon. Therefore, I asked, would you support a tax to buy it? They said yes. This council voted to send to the ballot for the people of Ascension Parish to choose whether or not they wanted Lamar Dixon a 1/8 cent sales tax. That tax would have provided the $7.5 million to buy it. It would have provided the 4-point-something million that CSRS said we needed to renovate it. It would have provided the maintenance fee, the $1 million that, or the 700 something that we're losing right now would have been provided in that funds, because that tax would have taken care of it, and it didn't have to break even because we had the funds for it. That tax got vetoed. Had that tax not got vetoed 2 years later, we would already own the facility. We would already be renovating it. We would already be successful in what we're doing. That didn't happen. So now that there's other people out there looking and they have the money to buy it, they should be allowed to if possible. Because where are we going to get the $7.5 million to buy it? Where are we going to get the $4 million it's going to take to renovate it? These guys out here are looking to have a place to fly their airplanes. There's plenty of places in Ascension Parish to fly airplanes. And that's something, there's different things that our recreation is trying to do right now. Frisbee golf, bike, BMX bikes, skateboards. There's lots of things that $1 million a year can furnish for our citizens, because we have lots of land and places that we can put these things on. So I disagree. I think that we had to fund the mechanism to own this facility, and we should already own it. We don't, because the tax got vetoed.
Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, let me state again, I'm not for closing Lamar Dixon. You know, the Louisiana Superdome had people and legislators that made that act. Ms. Blanco ain't sitting up there and saying, you go fix the Superdome and take the state money to do it. She wants to. She got to get action to do that. Just like Ms. Fontenot said, we had action. Every softball field, or the softball field, or any softball field is paid for. Not still paying for it. They might pay for the lights on it, which goes along with the situation, but those are paid for. That library is paid for. You know why? It's paid for with a tax, because they went to the people and said, do you want a library here? If you do, we need this millage. When we went to build schools, a high school at Dutchtown, we went to the people for a millage. It's paid through taxes. We didn't arbitrarily take it out of the general fund and let something go by the wayside. Ms. Fondo's dead right. You know, we have the money in the general fund to supplement the loss, but we shouldn't have to do that. The CSRS study said it should have a funding mechanism. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Thornton, the facility in Arizona that we looked up on the internet has a funding base from a tax. Am I right?
Hotel tax.
That's correct.
Scottsdale.
It's got a funding base for a tax. The government is not footing the bill. It has a funding base. It still loses money, but it has a funding base. That's all we're asking for. If we're not going to do a funding base, which we don't have a plan still in front of us on how we're going to fund it, we're funding the losses out of the general fund. Something that could be used, as Ms. Koppel said, turn lanes, drainage, roadside ditches, anything you want to use it for, because it's a general fund. That's all I got to say.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
And then respectively disagree with Ms. Fontenot. She said that a 1/8 in sales tax would have generated enough money to pay for the facility. That is not even close. We'd have passed it a year and a half ago. It would have been not near about $7.5 million generated. We were looking at that as an operational tax, not to pay for it. 1/8 cent tax parish-wide, and has increased significantly since '05. Obviously, it's gone up. But at that time, if I recall, when I had to go back and look, I think it was only going to generate about $1.2 million. Yes, I did veto a new tax, because I think government always looks for new taxes instead of trying to take money that's already there. Maybe next year we go to people and see if they want to redirect part of the half-cent drainage tax for a plan that was supposed to have been finished in 1990, and the tax go away. Maybe the citizens want to take some of that for roads, or take some of that for Lamar Dixon. You know, there's a lot of options that we have. Maybe they want to redirect some lighting district taxes. Okay? But just to go out with a new tax until we gave this facility the chance to see how we would do, I don't think is good government. I think that the validity of that decision has more than been borne out with what's happened. Mr. Valentine uses the term general fund, but we have a 1 cent undedicated tax that the citizens have already approved that they expect us to use wisely. And that tax is being used and has grown significantly in the last year and a half. And I try to watch it carefully how we spend it. And so, yes, we're using some of that 1 cent for Lamar. We're using some of that 1 cent for all of our recreation programs because we don't have a dedicated recreation tax anywhere. We're using part of that 1 cent to fund mosquito control that you voted to do tonight. We're using some of that 1 cent for a lot of things. Now, we probably need to have a really good discussion. And next year is an election year, and usually politicians don't want to get into taxes in election years. They're running high in the heartbeat with that. But I don't have a problem debating taxes because we probably need to look at redirecting some taxes. You remember the drainage plan called for the tax to go away, the half-cent sales tax. The master drainage plan. Once the plan was finished, it was going to cost $35 million. Mr. Follett recommended that the half-cent sales tax could go away and that the ad valorem or property tax would be a sufficient amount of money. It's in black and white. And all of you have copies of that to maintain it. And so if we're going to talk about Lamar Dixon in the scope of the 1 cent and the general fund, since Mr. Valentine opened this up, maybe we need to have a good working meeting one night, Mr. Salvor, talk about all these issues on taxes, because obviously revenue is not enough for all of the needs in the parish, but is the revenue being placed where it's needed the most? You know, are there opportunities for our citizens to consider some other things? And governments do that all the time. And they're tough decisions to do things like that because whoever's getting militaries now, they may have too much and they don't want to give it up. But that's what it's about, to look at those things. When I talked about economic development of Lamar Dixon, I wasn't talking about the taxes, but again, it's mistaken. A government entity that makes the most on the sales tax is not the school board or the city or the parish. It's the state of Louisiana with their 4 cents. Okay, so they're the ones who benefit the most, the state. And then I'm talking about from the private sector. Economic development of the private sector, if you look at these facilities, just as Mr. Thornton pointed out with the Superdome, if you talk to Mayor Holden and the council up there with the River Center, you talk to any of these facilities, they're going to tell you in the business community, which obviously does eventually generate tax for government, but in hiring people and what's taking place in those communities, the peripheral economic development is what is one of the critical components you need to look at, in my opinion, when you consider these kind of facilities. So it's not just the direct positive impact to the quality of life of our citizens, but what benefits are generated in the business community because of the revenues that are being spent in that community, in the hotel rooms and restaurants and buying gasoline and all the other things. Just that one BMX event, how many people we're talking about, Mr. Thornton, coming in?
750, I believe, isn't it, Eddie? Competitors, 750 competitors with their families.
So when
Stay
you
here multiple
multiply
days.
that out, that's a few thousand people, and they're going to be here for how long?
3 days.
What is the economic benefit in the parish with that event alone, that one event? And so I would ask you, as you consider this, to go back to the report we gave you 2 years ago this month for Dr. Lauren Scott, who's was a professor at LSU, who does the forecasting for the state in many respects, him and Dr. Richardson, I think. He just took, I think, 3 events at Lamar Dixon and looked at the economic impact with jobs, both at the state, the parish, and local level. Then he also looked at the private sector. And so that's a 3-page summary of a very long report if you just look at those 3 pages. And it's called The Impact of the Lamar Dixon Expo Center on Ascension Parish in Louisiana by Lawrence C. Scott and Associates, dated November 2004. Now, we could go do that on all these events, but I think this gives us a snapshot of what they found to be the case with just those, and I'm not going to read the entire letter.
Thank you.
Like Mr. Valentine did on the people that want to buy the center, but I...
Thank you for recognizing somebody else wants to buy it.
Good. Now, there's a lot of people wanting to buy it.
I don't think so.
And so they looked at these, they looked at the trade show and they looked at the agricultural show, I think was the two events. And if we'll go in and look at the sportsman's show and other things, I think we'll see probably, and plus when the new development comes in that area, I think we'll see even increased economic impacts in this whole area. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Shakespeare.
I promise I'll be as brief as possible. I think a few things need to be said. First of all, Mr. Thornton, thank you very much from the people of Louisiana. I don't think everybody realizes exactly what you went through personally as a caretaker of the Superdome, which is our state money. I was fortunate enough to find out your story, and I appreciate everything you did, your dedication, and what happened this year with the opening is good for everybody in the state. A couple things. I think with the storm like it was, I don't think anybody could ever forecast the long-range effects of it. And I don't think even at this point anybody can forecast all of the long-range effects of that storm on people of Louisiana, people of Ascension Parish, and the state. I think it'll be years to find out the full potential of Lamar Dixon. I think because of that, and I would like to see that full potential be able to be fulfilled. I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Hughes on his reasons why Lamar Dixon is very valuable for the people of Ascension Parish. I think it's I think years from now, people are going to say, you know, it's a great decision, and it's something as it fulfills out, and as we decide how it's going to fill out to its full potential, I think that'll be realized, and people will think, as they think Dave Dixon was a great visionary now, not everybody did in the 1960s. I also agree wholeheartedly with Ms. Fontenot that if we're going to have Lamar Dixon, we need to fund it. I think it's a separate issue than general fund issues. As President Hughes said, it's a new tax from something, but it's a new situation. Before we made a decision about Lamar Dixon, we ran parish government without Lamar Dixon being in the picture. Once it comes into the picture, the people of the parish need to have an opportunity to decide whether we want to fund it, and we ought to give them that opportunity, and whether we do it from a sales tax, which was proven to be out favorable to the people, or if we do that with a combination of a hotel-motel tax. Now that we're generating more and more hotels, and many places are funding a lot of their facilities through all or part of hotel-motel tax. And I think some kind of combination could occur. But we need to fund it, or we don't need to be in it. And I'm for funding it and allowing the people to decide. We need to meet and come together and decide how to do that. We also are paying for things out of the general fund that should be going to general operations of the government and building new things and all. In recreation, I would hope to see that people of the parish would have an opportunity to decide if and how much recreation we would like in this parish, and a method of funding it, as well as mosquito control, which we see now is a very valuable health thing. People need an opportunity to decide if we want it, and if we do, how much do we want to fund it, what level. Same thing with animal control. These are all quality of life issues. These are not things that we have to do. These are things that we should decide to do. I would hope that we have a group here that wants Lamar Dixon and does not want to fund it, the people to fund it through local taxes, and a group that wants Lamar Dixon but wants it to be funded with local taxes. And hopefully we can, instead of taking stances and sides, we can come together and find common ground so that we can not only own the facility but fund it and move forward so we can get to other things that we need to do in this parish. So hopefully, Parish President, you can get some people together, Mr. Savoy, and in the next few months we can work some things out and find methods to go about solving these problems, and then we can end the rhetoric at these meetings and move forward. So, but I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see some good things and some good economic development in this parish. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promise I'll be brief, too, and I'll be briefer than Mr. Scheck-Snyder was. I didn't support the tax that was proposed at the council meeting a year ago or however long ago it was because, number one, it was not presented at the Finance Committee nor at any committee, to my knowledge. It was not discussed. It was not debated. There was no information presented. There was nothing written down. People come forth and they say, well, if the tax had passed, we would do this and we would do this and we would do this with it. But I didn't have that information. None of it was ever presented. All I heard was, well, 1/8 cent sales tax will generate this much money every year and we'll dedicate it to Lamar Dixon. There wasn't any plan. I wasn't comfortable. I'm not going to go to the people and ask them to vote on a tax until I can tell them exactly how that money is going to be put forth, how that money is going to be paid. That was not presented here, and it was not debated by this council at all. I promise you, I've been chairman of the Finance Committee since this council took office, and it was not debated there. If there were private meetings that were held to discuss how that tax would be disposed of, I wasn't privileged to have been invited to them, so I don't know that. But all I know is that all that was proposed on that night, that vote that the parish president vetoed, was that we put a 1/8 cent sales tax on the ballot, and there was no more information presented. Nothing was written down. I believe that Lamar Dixon is an investment for this parish, that it will reap its rewards in the later days. No, we're not going to make any money right now, no, and Lamar Dixon never will. But the development around Lamar Dixon, the development that it generates, will reap benefits. This council already has recently rezoned property outside the city limits for a new motel to go up on. So we're going to start reaping that tax, that hotel motel tax, not the city of Gonzales. That's going to come to us, and there's a lot of developable land around Lamar Dixon that I think can be used for further development that will enhance the tax base. So Lamar Dixon may not pay for itself, but the development will help to increase the tax base, and that will help increase the overall income of this parish. Also, if another entity besides the parish, besides the public entity, is running Lamar Dixon, there's no guarantee that private non-profit organizations can use that facility. I'm all in favor of it. I was a guy talking to Mike at Bike Connection with the radio controlled airplane club and the bike club to get this rolling. I spoke to Mr. Eddie Crawford about that, and he embraced it. And because the parish owns that, private nonprofit groups such as this do have the privilege to use it. I can't guarantee that would happen if this were owned by a private for-profit entity. There is no guarantee that. But I want the people to be able to continue to use Lamar Dixon. I think Lamar Dixon is an investment in the future of this parish, and that the development that Lamar Dixon spurs will be the rewards that we have invested. I say we move forward with Lamar Dixon as we are, and the funding is available that's coming to us from state and federal government. No, I can't tell you right now that it's there, just like the parish president can't tell you that, but I believe that there has been enough interest generated that we will find that, and when we move forward with it and we make that solid commitment that we go forth with it, then it's going to come. I believe that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
I'll try to be brief, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. You know, when you talk to the business people in the parish, they know when there's an event going on at Lamar Dixon. In fact, I see Mr. Harry Robert in the audience. Mr. Harry, you know when there's something going on now, right? You reap those benefits, don't you? So do all businesses around the parish. The statement was made earlier that if a third party purchased the facility, potential revenues generated could be more valuable to the parish than owning and operating it. Well, I challenge that statement because I know that the plants, the plant managers out there that are close to Lamar Dixon, if you ask them who do they want running, owning, controlling, operating Lamar Dixon, they'll tell you in a heartbeat they want Ascension Parish government. They don't want to see a private firm owning and operating this property and possibly a theme park coming in. This would have an adverse impact on existing jobs, future product lines at the chemical plants. There's a very, very high level of concern of what will take place at Lamar Dixon in the future if it's bought out and if it's run by private concern. Back to the vote on the tax. I agree with everything Mr. McConnell said. The tax was presented, and I think it was presented too quickly. We didn't have time to evaluate a tax. We need to see a track record. In that track record, in the years that we've been operating the facility, we've had major catastrophic events, Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Katrina, that's impacted Lamar Dixon tremendously, impacted the state tremendously, this area. I want to remind everyone, and this is certainly nothing against Doug Thornton. I applaud Doug Thornton and Eddie Croft and the job they've done in running this facility. But I want to remind everyone, they operate the Superdome, the Pontchartrain Center, the River Center in Baton Rouge. I'm correct, Mr. Thornton. The night this council decided on which firm to operate Lamar Dixon for Ascension Parish government, I made the recommendation to go with Global Spectrum, and there was a second. And then there was a substitute motion to go with SMG. Well, a 3-year projection between the two firms, Global Spectrum projected a revenue much higher than that of SMG. In fact, over the 3-year period, Global Spectrum actually projected a profit of over $400,000 for the parish versus SMG and a $400,000 loss. Am I correct, Mr. Hughes?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we can pull
I
the figures
don't remember
out.
all those numbers, Mr.
They're there, and I invite anyone to go back and research them. And so to sit here and say, well, we continue losing money, well, why didn't you study the figures back then? The opportunity was there to go with Global Spectrum and to see what they could do with the facility, but this council went with SMG. And I don't remember for sure, but I believe Mr. Scheck-Snyder seconded. I believe you made that motion to go with SMG. Have to pull all that out and take a look at it. But anyway, I'm in favor of moving forward with the parish operating the facility, and I'm certainly not in favor of a tax at this point in time. Thank you.
Mr. Valentine.
Just one statement, Mr. Hillensbeck second. Just that the public and Mr. Thornton, he did say projections. They didn't know it was going to be a Katrina either. Projections are one thing. Producing something else, and the reason we went with SMG because they had the experience and they had the knowledge, and they also have 18 other facilities, if I'm not mistaken, that y'all manage just like this. That all lose money.
That's
and
right.
You told us that up front.
I sure did.
Thank you.
Mr. Doug.
Mr. Chairman, may I, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for the kind remarks, Councilman Scheck-Snyder, about the Superdome. It's not appropriate for me to talk about how the property should be acquired. That's not a debate that, as an operator, we should get into. It's our job to tell you about the operations. So I just want to make some observations here to kind of put all this in perspective. In terms of the finances, I want to remind you that last year we had a surplus at that facility of over $300,000. And that came about in the first 6 months of our operation. And we were impacted by the storm in a positive way, if you recall. But I would suggest to you that one of the reasons we were able to generate a surplus at Lamar-Dixon last year was because of the management of SMG. Now, take 2006. As we transitioned out of 2005 and the impact of Hurricane Katrina, a lot of these events canceled. We had a significant number of events that were impacted, mostly your equestrian events, your livestock shows, who are run by smaller organizations that can be financially impacted. We lost $138,000 worth of contracted business in 2006. A big chunk of that was the Cajun Music Festival that we had planned to do with Quint Davis. Why did Quint Davis not come? Because he was concentrating on getting Jazz Fest up and running in April of 2006, and he had to relocate the Essence Music Festival from New Orleans to Houston. So it was impossible for him to focus on an event at Lamar-Dixon. I have spoken to him. I've spoken to AEG, his partner. I was with them last week, and we are still focused on trying to do a signature event at Lamar-Dixon. In my opinion, we can continue to do a lot of different events out there, a diverse array of events. But we do need, if we're going to be able to make it profitable, we're going to need a signature event or two. We're going to need one or more. And the signature events that we're talking about are the festival-type programs that would generate in excess of $100,000 in net income for this operating budget. We can do all the equestrian shows that we want, and they're going to generate minimal amounts of money for us. I mean, we're just being honest. Now, we're trying to move forward and negotiate, some of the larger pieces of business. But to continue on, we lost $138,000 in contracted business due to the storm, either directly or indirectly related to Hurricane Katrina. Then you encounter nearly $93,000 worth of unanticipated maintenance and repair expenses, which happen to a facility that's 6 years old. You're going to have capital repair and maintenance. $93,000 that was not budgeted impacts the bottom line. And nearly $50,000 in unbudgeted utility expenses due to fuel adjustment charges, which are probably indirectly related to Hurricane Katrina. That's $280,000 worth of unbudgeted expenses that impacted us in 2006. So if you take a hard look at the numbers, we had projected in our pro forma, I went back and pulled it out, 2 years ago when we presented to you a loss of $355,000 in the first full year of operation. We budgeted a loss this year of $363,000. Well, we're going to be about $180,000 above that projected deficit. And when you figure that we lost $280,000 worth of, $138,000 worth of contracted business and had higher than budgeted maintenance expenses and higher than budgeted utility expenses of $280,000 combined, it's not all bad. But when you strip it all down and you analyze it, and I would suggest to you that that is still significantly better than the 2004 operation of the foundation. They lost $925,000 in their last full year of operation. We're going to beat that this year by about $330,000. So their last year of operation and 2006 scaled down because of the storm, we're still better than previous by $333,000. Still not good. We want to get it down to obviously a zero balance where there's no deficit. But as you guys have already stated, these facilities by and large do not make money. They're not profit centers. They are public assembly facilities that are used by citizens wherever you go, in whatever city or parish or state you might be in. It's typically the program for these types of facilities. They're there for the public benefit. But I don't want to get into the debate of how it should be paid for. I will tell you that, as you heard from Eddie, we're off to a good start in 2007. 2007 will be our first full year of operation without the effects of the storm. And you heard him say he's already contracted over $400,000 worth of business. I believe it's 209 events booked, contracted for 2007. That's 2/3 of what we had this year. So that's not bad before we even hit the January 1st date. So I would suggest to you that our deficit's going to come down next year. We expect it to come down, but I would be remiss if I stood up here and told you that this facility is going to be profitable on a cash-on-cash basis. And I just don't think that's a realistic expectation for you. And I will add that SMG will work for free this year. We're not going to get paid because under our management contract with you, we said we would only take a fee if we were able to meet our budget, and we're going to miss that. It looks like by about $170,000 to $180,000 this year.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one last thing, Doug. I applaud y'all on what you've done. I know I didn't vote for you initially, but I know you're doing a great job out there, and I'm certainly encouraged by the numbers. It was stated earlier that we were headed toward a $1 million loss, and that's not the case. We're significantly less than what Lamar Dixon itself was losing when we took it over under the foundation. And I just think over time that loss is going to annually come on down.
It will.
And I don't think this will ever be a big money maker for the parish, but I think it means a lot to the people of Ascension Parish that Ascension Parish government operated and keep it.
I think the loss that you're talking about also includes the lease purchase.
Yes, it does.
Amortization, so that has to be factored in as well. That concludes my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One more statement. Mr. Hillensback is misleading. That does include the lease, and this parish will fork out close to $1 million this year. You just got to understand that. People have to understand that, so let's not mislead them. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
And we spent over $1 million on recreation, and we don't get anything back on that either.
Thank you, Doug. Eddie. Moving right along.
Thank you.
Number 20, zoning review ID 1605.06, track 2 and 3 of the Rosie P.T. Babin Estate for M&S Land Acquisition Investments Group, LLC, located on the south side of Bayou Northeast Road, approximately 1,000 feet east of Cleo Road, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from rural to mixed use, and this is to accept or deny. Mr. Lance Brock.
The recommendation from the Zoning Commission was to deny the request.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Todd Lambert.
I make that motion that we accept the planning and zoning's recommendation to deny.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. McConnell. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 21 is an introduction of an ordinance to consider a servitude revocation for the Lennis L. Duke property,
I
Lot
move
2A, District 11.
Move to introduce the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Byrigger. Is there any opposition? No opposition, motion passes. Public hearing. Public hearing to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from business park to mixed use for Lot 6 of the Willis Wilson tract for Robert Wilson Jr., located on the northwest corner of Louisiana Highway 30 and Robert Wilson Road, zoning review ID 1576.06. Mr. Babin.
Mr. Chairman, it reads to amend the Ascension Parish Development Code land use map by rezoning a certain parcel of land from business park BP to mixed use MU. Whereas the Parish of Ascension has in effect a comprehensive plan of zoning pursuant to that plan, the parish-wide development code was adopted by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority, which became effective on June 1st, 1999. Whereas the Parish Development Code provides for a procedure for its amendment to allow the rezoning of the property to a different classification. Whereas the herein below described property is located as such that the rezoning of the property is in conformity with the adjacent land uses, in conformity with the general land use plan of the parish, not injurious to adjacent property, and fully meets qualifications for rezoning set forth under Louisiana law. Be it ordained that the following described property be rezoned from business park BP to mixed use MU, located at the northwest corner of Highway 30 and Robert Wilson Road, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from business park BP to mixed use MU.
Do I hear a motion to open public hearing? Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Byrigger. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 22, the ordinance.
So
moved. I'm sorry. Hold up, I'm going too fast here. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert to close the public hearing. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 23, the ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any discussion?
Comment.
Comment, Mr. McConnell.
Hotel going right here, outside the city limits.
Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 24, public hearing to amend specific definitions of a bed and breakfast in section 17-378 of the Ascension Parish Development Code. Mr. Babbitt.
To amend the Ascension Parish Development Code, section 17-138. Whereas the Parish of Ascension has an effective comprehensive plan of zoning, pursuant to that plan, the parish-wide development code was adopted by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority, which became effective on June 1st, 1999. Whereas the Ascension Parish Development Code provides for a procedure for its amendment of the Development Code and related regulations and restrictions by initiation by the Parish Planning and Zoning Commission. The Parish Planning and Zoning Commission has initiated an amendment of section 17:138 of the Ascension Parish Development Code regarding the specific definition of bed and breakfast. Now therefore be it ordained that section 17:138 of the Ascension Parish Development Code is amended to read as follows. Bed and breakfast, section 17:138. An overnight boarding establishment operated within one structure of no more than 10 private bedrooms. Breakfast, including a continental breakfast, shall be served in the morning. This ordinance having been submitted to vote, the vote as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Byrick to open public hearing, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this public hearing?
Motion to close, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Byrick, second by Mr. Oliver. Is there any opposition to close the public hearing? Having none, motion passes. Number 25, the ordinance itself.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 26, public hearing to adopt the 2006 amended budget and the 2007 budget. Mr. Babbitt.
Whereas a revision of certain budgets for the 2006 budget year for certain funds has been prepared and submitted to the council as follows. Attached to the 2006 operating surplus deficit amended to fund balance after amendments. Whereas the proposed operating budget for the year 2007 includes revenues of $46,809,900 and expenditures of $43,859,800. The capital budget includes revenues of $3,292,000 plus required fund balance of $22,461,000 for a total equal to $25,753,000 and expenditures of $28,455,000. Therefore, total operating and capital revenues plus required fund balance equals $72,562,900 and expenditures equal to $72,314,800. Interfund transfers are $24,083,600. Whereas the Ascension Parish Council has reviewed and considered such proposed budget and made revisions of same. Whereas said proposed budget is fully set forth under proper notices to the public for public hearing, which was held on November 16, 2006, as required by Louisiana Revised Statutes of the State of Louisiana and the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter. Therefore, be it ordained that the Ascension Parish Council of the State of Louisiana adopt Section 1, 2006 amended budget, that the amended budget as prepared for 2006 are approved and appropriated by the Ascension Parish Council with a stipulation that transfer from the Sales and Use Tax District Number 1 to the General Fund and the Road and Bridge Fund in the amount necessary to maintain a balanced fund, but will not exceed the amount authorized in the budget. The Recreation Fund is allocated 10% from the net 1% Sales and Tax District Number 1 revenues for an additional source of funding, and 10% of that share is provided for Recreation B. Funding is also provided by an allocation to Lamar Dixon Expo Center Fund, Ascension Jail Project Fund, Courthouse Construction, FINS, and the Water Wastewater Fund. To the extent that the resulting revenues of the Sales and Use Tax District Number 1 exceed expenditures and transfers, such excesses will be transferred to the Road Construction Fund. The 1/3 net of the Sales and Use Tax District Number 2 revenues collected for the fire protection shall be shared by the Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 1 at 65%, by Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 2 at 13%, and the Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 3 at 22%. All unexpended appropriations will lapse at December 31st, 2006. Section 2, 2007 budget. That the budget proposed for year 2007 is approved, adopted, and appropriated with the following provisions. Expenditures not contemplated in the operation of the government of Ascension Parish as set forth in this budget are to be approved in accordance with the provisions of Article 7, Section 7-01 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish. Transfers from the Sales and Use Tax District Number 1 to the General Fund and the Road and Bridge Fund in the amount necessary to maintain a balanced fund, but will not exceed the amount authorized in the budget. The Recreation Fund is allocated 10% of the net 1% Sales and Use Tax District Number 1 revenues as an additional source of funding, and 10% of that share is provided for Recreation B. Funding is also provided by an allocation to the Lamar-Dixon Expo Center Fund, the Ascension Jail Project Fund, and FINS. The 1/3 net of the Sales and Use Tax District Number 2 revenues collected for fire protection shall be shared by Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 1 at 65%, by Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 2 at 13%, and the Ascension Parish Fire Protection District Number 3 at 22%. Funding to provide for the 2006 encumbrances is hereby approved and appropriated. All unextended appropriations will lapse on December 31st, 2007.
Motion to open the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barriga to open the public hearing, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item? Ms. Suzanne, this is the only one. I got Ms. Catherine Goppel.
Thank you, Mr. Saville. I'd like to ask that my time wouldn't begin until I get this little overhead thing to work. Do you mind? Because I have several charts and graphs, and I don't want to have to. Okay, great. That'll work. I won't zoom in. Let me begin. The proposed 311-page budget reflects the priorities of President Hughes. They include personal salary increases of 5%. It is unclear who will be receiving this raise, with more than 100 employees at or near the top of their salary scale, or what criteria will be used. Employees providing services should receive a fair wage. Salaries, not including benefits, have seen an increase of almost $2 million since '04, with contract salaries almost doubling. Only 3 positions in '06 were not filled, that were funded. This graph is positions that were funded. Increases since '04 are greater for the part-time employees. 13 additional full-time personnel will be funded in '07. I've made this chart for you. It's from '04 to '07. It has every personnel listing, and you can look at it later. I'd like to ask the citizens of Ascension Parish, does it look to you like government's getting smaller? Public buildings is another priority of the parish president. In the general administration, there are 2 line items related to buildings totaling $575,000, $250 for maintenance and $300,000 for general repairs, not specified. Are we padding the budget? Plus this. That's right, a $25,000 office stairway for the parish president. You have it in the paperwork in front of you. How many citizens will be served by this $25,000 stairway? Records with the Office of the State Fire Marshal show no record of safety issues. We are told the frills and fat are being cut. Citizens, what do you think? At a time when Ascension Parish is now the #1 parish in Louisiana for incidences of West Nile virus, the 2007 budget for mosquito control has been reduced. Funds for purchasing product to control the mosquito population have been cut by 47%. Comparing revenues spent from '04 to proposed '07, general administration major building repairs will increase 3,150%. There they are. And maintenance of building and grounds for just this one line item in the budget will increase 149%. There you go. Will buildings take the place of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of citizens? Council members, if this budget is approved, the priorities of the parish president will become yours, including the $25,000 stairway for one person, Amendments are in order. Thank you for your attention.
Anyone, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 27, the ordinance adopting the 2006 amended budget and the 2007 budget.
I move the ordinance.
Got a motion by Mr. McConnell. Second. Second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion? Is there any, Mr. Valentine?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the 206 and 207 budget as follows. At the Lamar Dixon Expo Center Fund, number 27, to delete the expenditure provision to exercise the option to purchase Lamar Dixon Expo Center and therefore continue to operate the center on a lease basis only.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Ms. Fontenot. Mr. Valentine, could you read that again, or
This is simply in the budget. It states that I think it's 250 for this year and 250 for next year. I'm not have a qualm with the money as far as the 250 because I think one of it's from David Vitter, if I'm not mistaken. Now the other one is out the general budget, but I do take exception to the fact that the provision says to option to purchase. So I would request that we delete the expenditure provision to exercise the option to purchase Lamar Dixon Center and therefore continue to operate it on a lease basis only.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President.
Do we have a second on that motion we fixing to vote on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. No, let me just clarify that, make sure we understand. That's in there because of the money that's coming from the congressional appropriations, has been earmarked for purchasing of the facility. Now, obviously, we're not going to exercise that option without you voting to do that, and we get a lot more money than $250,000. So, but that money was coming to us from HUD and Urban Development, and I think that one was an economic development grant that Senator Vitter was primarily responsible for. There's another $500,000 being worked now in this budget, the fiscal budget of the federal government that started October 1st, and the capital outlay budget of the state under Senator Armaday and the members of the House is $500,000 in capital outlay. Now, all that's got to be worked and negotiated with the governor's office and the administration at the state government on how much of that is actually funded in those 7. So that's why it's worded that way, because that money was earmarked in the congressional appropriation for the purchase of Lamar Dixon. So now, and we can let it sit there until we get the monies and we develop a comprehensive master plan for the facility. So just wanted to clarify that, make sure you understand that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Byron.
Would it be out the question, I ask that we just remove it, and when we do get the federal appropriation, we amend the budget to put it in when we do receive the federal appropriation?
We already have it. It's been in the mail since March, Jared, but the one for the last fiscal year, we haven't received the money. That's why it's an 07 budget, but it's been appropriated for over a year now. And
yeah, but we don't have it in our hand.
No, but we have it, a congressional appropriation, and it should be here any time. So,
Mr. McConnell.
Just as I stated at the Finance Committee, just because that provision is in the budget doesn't mean it's going to be exercised. It takes a vote of this council to exercise that lease purchase agreement. So just because it's in the budget does not mean that it's got to happen. But if the time comes that it can happen, it's in the budget and we can act upon it quickly, and we don't have to go through the whole ordinance process amending the budget. So I suggest that we leave it in the event that the funding does come through.
Mr. Valentine.
Okay, on the same premise, if it doesn't matter, then I'm not going to vote for a budget that says we're going to exercise the option on Lamar Dixon. If the $250,000 is earmarked for that, if we don't buy it, do we have to send the money back?
possible.
Okay, well, we may have to send it back. I mean, that's my point to amend this. I wasn't told that. I mean, Parish President, if you tell me the truth, that's fine. I understand. Or if you don't know, you can say that too. But you know, Mr. McConnell said, well, leave it in there whether if we purchase it or not. But if we don't, I mean, I'm not willing to put another $250,000 from general budget, whatever, for next year unless this council takes action to buy it. And if we're going to do it, then let's take action to buy it. That's why I don't want it in the budget. That statement. I'm not taking the money out. I'm just taking the statement out.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem that George with the statement in there, because the money that we're applying for the federal government is all for the purpose of purchasing, none for operational. And so if we get the other $250,000 and we get them both in the same fiscal year, the federal government, we'll actually have maybe $750,000, sitting there. But as Mr. McConnell pointed out, we can't exit, so I can't go and just sign an agreement to buy it without you guys doing that. So you got plenty of safeguards there in it now. As we told you recently, with what we're working with the governor's office and with some of the emergency funds that came down part of the Louisiana Recovery Authority and those efforts now, hopefully next year we'll see, a couple million maybe. And I'll be shocked. I'll be glad. I wish you'd vote for us when we do that. No problem.
Ms. Fontenot.
I've been studying the Lamar-Dixon section of the budget for some time, and even got with Miss Amanda Barat and Miss Gwen about it. And I can't identify the $500,000 right now. From what they're telling me, they're just grants that are being applied for or have not, or will be applied for. So I can't see putting $500,000 in, that we, like Mr. Valentine said, we don't have the money for. But I also have a problem with this note on page 8 of the budget message for 207. It says, "Note, this budget includes a state appropriation that we propose to be spent on the development of a master plan for the undeveloped land at Lamar-Dixon, with the possibility of consolidation of some parish locations at this site." This is very controversial right now because, according to the lease we signed, the Lamar-Dixon people, and Ms. Dixon herself has told me personally that parish government will never be out there at Lamar-Dixon. So I have a problem with us putting this statement in this budget.
All right. Anyone else? There's a substitute motion on the table.
Just an amendment.
I'm sorry, an amendment to the 07 budget to omit the purchase option of it. All right. Is there any opposition?
Yes. Oh, I've taken it.
Roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Suzanne.
Councilman Joseph.
Oppose.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Oppose.
Councilman Thompson.
Oppose.
Councilwoman Fontenot.
Yes.
Councilman Hillinsbeck.
No.
Councilman Valentine.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman McConnell.
No.
Councilman Barriga.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see, 4. We've got 4 yeas and 5 nays.
I vote yes.
Votes yes.
Motion passes.
5-5 vote?
5-5.
That's a 5-5 vote.
It passes,
5-5.
yes. No, it fails. You don't have a majority.
Motion fails.
It fails.
Huh?
5-5.
I apologize.
It's 5-5.
I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right.
I was thinking it wasn't.
No, that's all right. Mr. Lamb's absent tonight.
Is there any other issues on the budget? Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, earlier we talked about the amendment for the mosquito control for 06, which I think we approved. But 07, I want to put an amendment to put $150,000 additional dollars in the budget for it.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Ms. Fontenot, to appropriate $150,000 additional dollars to the mosquito control.
Out of the 1 cent sales.
Out of the 1 cent sales use tax. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Is there any other? Ms. Fontenot.
I have one. I've been working with the Litter Committee, for the whole time that I've been on this council, and they only get funded about $20,000 a year. And I met with Mr. Irvin this week and was talking about the budget, and he said he could use another $10,000. They are starting a recycling program, and the recycling, they're trying to get some dumpsters around the parish to pick up the recycling materials from people. So they're going to need some extra money this year. So I would ask this council to take from the sales and use tax $10,000 to increase their budget to $30,000. And I make that as a motion.
I'll second that.
You got a motion by Ms. Fonno to add an additional $10,000 to the litter and recycling.
Right.
Recycling. And a second by Mr. Shea-Snyder.
It's under recreation.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. McConnell?
Well, how come this was never discussed? We had a long discussion about, we've had 2 long discussions about this budget. We had it last week at the Finance Committee, and the week before that we had a special meeting to do nothing but discuss the budget. And I'm not opposed to litter control. I'm in favor of litter control. The parish is filthy. But shucks, why is this coming up last second? And one, it's almost like the tax, Mr. Chairman. We're just going to put the $10,000, and I don't know where it's going to be spent. I mean, it's $10,000. Ain't a big deal, something like this. But I sure would like to have something written down to look at. If I can quote somebody on this council, I don't have enough information to make a decision.
Ms. Fontenot.
I can explain that, Mr. McConnell. The litter committee has not met in several months. They kind of took the summer off a little bit, and we only met Tuesday. I was late getting to the meeting, and we were talking about recycling. I asked about the budget. I said, do you have enough money? He said, well, I would have really liked $30,000. I asked for 30. They cut me back to 20. And we're trying to get some stuff moving in that committee. I work on that committee wholeheartedly to the most of my ability. I'm sorry, it just came up. I didn't even have a clue that he didn't have enough money.
Any further discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Having none, motion passes. Is there any other issue on the proposed budget?
Motion to go into executive session.
Before you go there, Mr. Barrick, I do have one.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, we just voted on amendments. We need to vote on the budget.
I have one more issue that I think is important. It is the 5%. Mr. Roy Katz, I think you have something.
I'm off treatment, so y'all can relax. The proposal from the administration is a 5% increase for all employees. To answer a question that was brought up earlier, this would encompass all employees. Since I've been with the parish, the average annual increase has been 3%, and we've been going up on medical costs and everything else. So this is one of the reasons we're asking for a 5%. We're also trying to bring our supervisors into a range where our supervisors are making at least more than the people that are working for them. So in the budget, we've asked for $1.50 an hour increase for the supervisors so that they'll make more money than the people that are working for them. This is just to correct an injustice that was done, I don't know how long ago, but many years ago. So we're asking for that. But the 5% is for all employees.
So we're looking at a 5% across the board cost of living raise, plus adjust the supervisors to where they will make $1.50 above the highest paid operator.
Yes, sir, or hourly paid person.
All right. Mr. Shea-Snyder, you had something?
Well, just so
I want to make it very clear.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Everyone's going to receive a 5% raise.
Yes, sir.
It's a 5% across the board raise, and we're adjusting the supervisors to where they will make $1.50 above the highest paid operator.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
And when you say everyone, that's everyone excluding the parish council and the parish president. Correct.
That's your decision, but we didn't put you all in the budget.
No, that's just the employees, the supervisors. It's not the council and the president.
Mr. Thompson.
It's effective Wednesday.
That would be January 1st with the new budget.
Ms. Fontenot.
I don't know what's happening here, but each year we're having to come back and adjust people's salaries and stuff. That's why we had the personnel manual. And Roy, we asked for that to come back to us in July. That should be done separately by ordinance. If we're going to adjust the salary range of people, it shouldn't be adjusted in this type of amendment. It should be done properly.
Well, if you remember back in the when we had a personnel committee meeting, we had talked about, this was around the time that we were doing the adjustment on the nurses. And I said I would rather come to you with everything. And I'll also mention everything as being in the salary ranges. And I don't want to confuse anybody, but if you remember last year, we ran into butting our heads against a salary range when we tried to give increases, and we had to go back, and certain people got one-time adjustments and all this business. What we did, and what you'll see, is a increase in the ranges so that hopefully we don't have to go to you for the next 3 years or next 2 years or next year to increase somebody's salary. The ranges are adjusted. This is, if you remember, we talked about a 14%, and everybody got all excited about it. We took a random number to move the ranges 14%. We're giving a 5% increase, so that means there's still 9% in that range over the next 2 years. You can do whatever you want. You can give them 2%, 1%, 3%, 4%, but I don't have to come back to, we don't have to come back to the council to ask you to move the ranges or give people one-time adjustments. We're giving us some, this is what I wanted done last year, and it didn't come out that way. So that's what we're doing. We're working on increasing the ranges. We'll be glad to give you copies of everything that we have. It's not any big secret what the salary grades are and everything else. This way, nobody drops out the bottom. Nobody runs up the head against the top of a range where they can't get an increase, or we have to fool with one-time lump sum adjustments. So this has been kind of a comprehensive project. And again, as I mentioned to you last time, if there was something that we didn't do, you know, I'm in the office all the time. I just wish you'd call me, and I could be glad to talk to you. But I'll get you all this information that we're asking for tonight, so you won't have this problem.
I understand that, Roy. I'm just wanting to make sure. I know that we have 105 people maxed out right now. We ran into the same problem last year. I want to make sure that we're going to get this corrected, that they do have their range where they can get their fair steps or whatever it is that we give.
That's what we're doing. We're correcting the ranges so that nobody falls.
Is this correcting the range?
Ma'am?
Is this correcting it?
Ms. Fontenot, let me clear it up. Whenever we approve a 5% across the board raise, if we're automatically raising the range, that was confusion last year. Let's not go take the same thing. We are automatically raising the range. If an employee is at the top of their range now, and we're going to give them 5%, we're automatically raising that range.
But we're also, but also what I want you to understand is, that's why I brought this 14% up, is because if a 108, for example, or 110 has got a minimum and a maximum, if they're close to the top and we give them a 5% increase, if we don't move that range, they would get bumped against that. That's what we ran into last year, where we ran into lump sum. So what I want to do is increase the ranges, give them 5%, but then in the next, we don't bump that top of the range. You understand? The range may move higher than that, but we're not going for that. We're going for the 5%, so that next year, if we come back and we say we'll give them a 3%, it's still in that same range. That make sense? You're boxing them in right now. What you're doing is you're boxing people in right now. If you only move it this year, we're going to run into the same problem that we ran into last year. The people are going to be, if they get a 5%, they're going to be, the range moves 5%, they're going to be bumped against the top of the range, and you're going to have to move it again.
Right.
So why not move it this year, one time for the next 2 or 3 years, and you can do whatever you want as far as a percent, as long as you stay within that range. That's all we're doing.
I guess what I'm asking, Roy, is, you're saying if we just give the 5% this year, it changes their range, but then people that are in steps will still get a raise if they got room for it.
Right. They're gonna still get
So you're not helping the other employee. I mean, he's not getting. That employee wouldn't be getting a fair shake if everybody's getting 5%, but the others have room to get a raise, and these don't.
They're not. That's why I said everyone is going to get a 5% increase.
Right.
That's moving the step ranges also. Some of these people that are still in step, and there are very few of them, most of them are at the top right now, the average is about a 6% increase every time they move. Okay? We're going to give them the 5%. Everybody's getting the 5%. Everyone is getting a 5% increase across the board. The ranges are going to be moved so that nobody's going to be bumping against the top. We don't have to fool with lump sums and all that business. What's you shaking your head?
I'm trying to absorb this while I'm talking to you. I asked you that if we gave everybody a 5% range, did that still mean that those that had the range that would be due for a step would get a raise
They'd still
within
get
that?
their step.
Well, they would get 5% plus the step?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're not limiting the step.
Well, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But you've got a lot of people that are maxed out that have nowhere to get the step plus the 5%.
No, they're
so
at the top
they're
of the
limited
step.
to only the 5%.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I didn't think
Yeah,
that
no,
was fair.
Well, you got people that are starting in at a very minimum wage, and it's taking them 4 years to get to the top. I think when we first came, they had 9 steps, and it was even more confusing. As far as I'm concerned, I would rather get rid of the steps. Period. That's my own opinion.
Maybe we need to look at that. I just want to make sure that everybody's treated fairly, Roy.
Everybody is.
You know,
believe
I mean,
me.
that's all. Yeah, but you know, when somebody's got an avenue to get a raise through a step thing, plus he gets a cost of living raise, and then somebody else doesn't have any room to grow, and all he gets is a cost of living raise. I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, we've got 105 people that are in that range.
They're going to get the increase.
They're going to get 5%, but they don't have
sooner or
anything
later,
other than-
everyone's going to be out of step, theoretically, and be at the top, and all get 6%.
This is the cleanest and fairest way. This is good. Mr. Oliver, you had something?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just recall last meeting we had this discussion, and you had the numbers. I think that raise increase was going to go over $500,000 across the board.
Yeah, it was 500.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, in that increase, when he said all supervisors will have an increase of $1.25, $1.50, I just want to know if that was going to affect that budget cost to go any higher.
I
don't think it's going to affect that much because they're above. Most of them are above already. You talk it's minimum.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's not that many that's affected, but we have to equalize. We have to do that because it's just not fair. In fact, earlier this year, the council voted to give them some overtime, which they weren't getting unless it was an executive order. So we're gradually trying to work this thing out to where the salary administration is something that's fair and equitable to everybody, and that's all we're trying to do. Thank
Is
you.
there any further question?
Thank you, Rob.
Now, Mr. Suzanne, put me back on track. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Yes, sir. You have a motion on the floor.
Motion by who? I need. Who is that?
I move the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by. That's what we're working on, 5% across the board, plus the adjusting the salaries of the supervisors.
I make the motion for the 5%.
No, we got a motion and a second. We got a motion on the whole budget.
That's in the budget,
That's
isn't
in
it?
the budget.
That's already in the budget. You have a motion on you. We voted on
need to
several
vote on
amendments,
the
but
budget.
that's in the budget.
No, hold on. In the budget, it states that we have a 5% adjustment. Everyone, please understand, right now, in the budget, there's a 5% adjustment. What we want to change that to is with the 5% across the board cost of living raise, plus adjust the supervisor's pay at DPW to get $1.50 above the top operator.
I made that motion.
Motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Tyler Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Having done, motion passes. Number 28, Ms. Fontenot. Oh, okay. Ms. Gwynn.
We didn't adopt the budget yet.
Yes, everybody has before you some amendments to the 2006 and 2007 budget that we are presenting for your consideration. The first one is the amended 2006 amendment. In the general fund, it's an appropriation for $150,000 for the Ascension Bicentennial Corporation, and also an appropriation of $20,000 to the Battered Women's Program. In Recreation A, by council action of August the 17th to engage the services of SJB Group in the amount of $7,500 in relation to development of a skateboard park. In the jail fund, increase professional services for Dr. Holmes's contract by $6,000 for a total of $36,000. And Fire District Number 3 dedicated fund, increase the retirement by $17,000 to $91,000 for the chief's retirement account transfer. And then the second page is possible amendments to the 2007.
Ms. Quinn, let's take care of 06 amendment. If anyone has any one of these items that you'd like to take up separately, let me know. Otherwise, I will take them up all at one time.
Just a question.
Mr. McConnell.
The 20,000 battered women's program, did we not do that under the vote of the finance committee? If this is just going to make it cleaner, I'm not going to argue with it. If you rather.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
So moved on the 2006 budget amendments.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barriga, second by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion? Having none, motion passes. All right, Ms. Nguyen.
Okay, then we'll go to the second page, and it's the 2007 budget amendments. The general fund, by council action on 9/21/06, to provide the grant match of $1,400 for the district attorney's office for the juvenile probation officer. Reduce the transfer out by $100,000 from the state rebate money for the bicentennial, budgeted bicentennial in the general fund in the amended 2006 budget that we just presented. So we had $100,000 in 07 before the motion by the finance committee to put it in 06 and increase it to $150. So we're reducing the $100,000 in 07. Appropriation of $20,000 to the battered women's program. The mental health fund, this is a result of the mental health board and the mental health director both agreeing to reduce some expenditures in the mental health fund as follows: to decrease contract labor by $12,000 for a total of $25,000, to decrease telephone by $15,000 for a total of $20,000, to decrease office supplies by $1,500 to a total of $4,500, decrease operating supplies by, I just said that, I'm sorry, decrease acquisitions, vehicles, and equipment by $12,000 to total $12,000, decrease major repairs to the buildings by $18,000 for a total of $45,000, decrease contract labor by $7,500 for a total of $17,500, decrease office supplies by $1,000 for a total of $5,000, decrease operating supplies by $1,000 for a total of $6,000, and decrease acquisitions, vehicles, and equipment by $12,000 to $12,000. If it seems like I repeated a couple of them, that's because they're in different departments, all within the mental health fund. The jail fund, increased professional services for Dr. Holmes's contract by 3% in 07 for a total of $37,000. Insurance Commission fund, reduced the transfer in, like we did out, by $100,000 from the state rebate money for the bicentennial. We budgeted the bicentennial in the general fund in 06 amended budget. FEMA repetitive loss reduction fund, per motion on September the 6th, 2006 at the East Ascension Drainage Board meeting, to provide the 25% match in the amount of $813,000 to be reimbursed by LRA, Louisiana Recovery Authority, or CDBG, for the HMGP 1603 and 1607 grant application.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Barry, second by Mr. Todd Lambert to accept the 2007 budget amendments. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? All right, we will move on the budget, the total all budget. Mr. McConnell, got a motion by Mr. McConnell.
Right.
Second by, this was accepting the 2007 budget amendments. That's going into the 2007 budget. Now I'm looking for a motion to accept the 2000 budget with amendments.
That was the original. I moved the ordinance to accept the budget. Now the amendments have been passed, so now you vote on the original motion. The amendments are already there.
Is there any opposition to the motion? Ha- Two opposed, Ms. Fontenot and Mr. Valentine. Motion passes. 28, executive session.
Motion to go into executive session, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Barrick, second by Mr. Todd Lambert, to go to executive session. Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Easy one.
Motion to reconvene, Mr. Chairman.
Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and
In
gentlemen,
executive session, I'm going to let Mr. McConnell handle it.
the recommendation to us was that you allow, this is two suits against the parish by two different individuals who we co-own property that we acquired through a tax sale. It is our recommendation that you allow us to bring this, stipulate to a judgment to bring this to a sheriff's sale so that we can get our percent interest ownership out of the sheriff's sale, that you allow us to have the property appraised and bid up to 75% of its appraised value.
I offer that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Barriga. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 29.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Barriga, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Martin, I got